No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is a special Easter Monday live edition of Outspoken, episode number 463. Happy Easter to you on what is a very special day in the Christian calendar. But breaking right now, Donald Trump has just slammed Starmer again at the White House ahead of a bombshell press conference. When asked by Ben Leo whether the UK could be resurrected this Easter, he raised the spectre of British Prime Minister Keir Starmer being another Neville Chamberlain.
Have you spoken with Keir Starmer, Stan? Also, do you believe the UK could resurrect like Jesus this Easter weekend?
Well, that's what they need. They have a long way to go. The UK has a long way to go. We don't want another Neville Chamberlain. Do we agree? We don't want Neville Chamberlain.
And I have a feeling that will be just the start, because today we will stay on air to bring you live coverage of Donald Trump's expected bombshell press conference from the White House after his new deadline for the crazy bastards, his words, running Iran. Don't go anywhere. There is a dramatic couple of hours in geopolitics right ahead. But also breaking today, Reform UK plunged into crisis at a seismic and terrifying moment in British politics, as the Green Party, led by the sickening coalition of Tit Whisperer and LGBTQIA plus extremist Zack, Polanski, and Islamist Mothin, charges to the top of the opinion polls for the first time ever. These lunatics want to destroy this country for good.
Happy Easter, you beautiful people. The Easter Bunny has arrived with some good news, because Nigel Farage, the lying charlatan who we know and loathe, is going down, down, down in the latest polls.
On Tuesday, Nigel Farage came to Leeds. He came to my city thinking he could spread his toxic brand of hatred. Now, Nigel Farage is nothing but a grifter. He's a scam artist.
Today, there is a growing crisis within Nigel Farage's Reform UK. I can reveal that social media influencers are now being cold called by HQ and asked to stand as candidates before the election deadline this Thursday.
We've told you today that Reform UK is still looking for candidates in your local area. With your support, we can make these local elections a referendum on Starmer and ensure everyone has a chance to vote for a Reform UK candidate.
And the right is at war over how to deal with the threat of a surging Restore Britain, as Rupert Lowe becomes more outspoken by the day.
When you look at the policy offer for both, I'd say Reform actually are the more right wing. But there's a lot that happens on social media, and I think that something very fishy went on there indeed. And there's a big question to ask about something that's suddenly risen to such prominence online.
And they said, don't worry. What we've got to do is we've got to appear moderate for a little while. We're going to get past the 2026 local elections, which are now coming up, and then we'll start engaging with the online right.
Meanwhile, this Easter, the country remains on the brink under slippery Starmer's Labour shit show, with social unrest growing over the now institutional two-tier policing.
And then you need to stop sitting there staring at me like you're doing me. I'll phone the police on both of you. Oh, well.
In my digest next, I'll reveal how supermarkets M&S and Waitrose have become ground zero of the assault on our day-to-day lives. Then analysis from our superstar panel, conservative commentator and social media star Based and Bougie, and Steph the Alter Nerd, host of the hit YouTube channel Steph the Alter Nerd and Political Nerds. Also coming up on the show today, a GB News debate over ethnicity and British citizenship explodes as Nana Queer hits back. Cancel culture is far from over in Britain, as the establishment are piling on the pressure to get the Home Secretary to ban Kanye West from headlining London's Wireless Festival. And of course, we will take you to the White House for that bombshell press conference from Donald Trump, as Sly News launches a highly partisan attack on the US president. Then in the Royal Uncancelled After Show on Substack, Meghan Markle attempts to overshadow the British royal family's Easter appearance with her own deranged Instagram performance. We'll team up with the Royal News Network to reveal all today. You can sign up to watch at www.outspoken.live. It's the first Greatest Britain and Union Jackass of the week too. Myself, Steph the Ultra Nerd, Based and Bougie, all going head to head today. I have a feeling it's going to be close as well. So Steph has nominated King Charles for not providing an Easter message on camera. Based and Bougie has nominated Keir Starmer for shaking hands with a serial killer while staying silent on the grooming gangs, but focusing his attention on a musician with bipolar disorder. That's in reference to Kanye West, which we'll be speaking about later. And I've nominated Meghan Markle for that creepy Easter Instagram post of her kids. 3 interesting choices. Who are you going to go for? Keep your feedback coming in throughout the show, and make sure you stay with us today because we will be going to a potentially seismic press conference from Donald Trump at the White House. But now, let's go. A truly terrifying moment in British politics that I have predicted would happen for months, but still represents a shocking Islamist and hard-left threat to our disunited kingdom, which is already facing perilous times. A bombshell new poll from Lord Ashcroft shows the Tit Whisperer and Mothin Ali's mad LGBTQIA+ Islamo coalition surging into first place, with Reform UK's lead wiped out. Yes, the Greens are on 21.4%, Reform 20.9%, and the Tories back to 20.5%. Farage supporter Steve Miller warned, without a merger of the right, the left will win the next general election. Bookmark this. And indeed, if a general election were to be held tomorrow, it would mean a hung parliament. But that is before you take into account the growing impact of a surging Restore Britain, which is now clearly the reason behind Reform's massive slump, even though the mainstream media, including GB News and Talk TV, don't want to tell you about it. But there are 2 different takes on this story. So hard leftist Aaron Bastani of Novara Media claimed the first time in British history that the Greens have topped a national poll for Westminster. Despite whatever talking points you'll hear in legacy media, my sense is they are gently nibbling into people who were considering reform. And Restore Britain leader Rupert Lowe himself added, "No point calling Greens supporting young men and women Marxists or indoctrinated or hard left. Some are fine. Most aren't. Most are just feeling patronised, insulted, and neglected by an establishment that quite evidently doesn't care about them. It hasn't for a very long time. We all know that. They see the system doesn't work for them, and they're reacting to it democratically and fairly. Do I think Polanski will solve their problems? No, I do not. Do I understand why they're searching for an answer? Yes, absolutely. Our job is to offer them an alternative option that they feel speaks for them. Polanski has done that, to be fair. Our job is to make sure Restore Britain does the same, but from a very different position. And that is true. But it is extraordinary, given this scenario, that Restore remains completely banned across all the MSM, despite having more members than the Tories and Lib Dems, while the Greens' extremist offering is treated as completely palatable, completely mainstream, especially their crazed Muslim deputy, Mothin Ali.
Nigel Farage came to Leeds. He came to my city thinking he could spread his toxic brand of hatred. Now, Nigel Farage is nothing but a grifter. He's a scam artist. He's a posh banker. He's a commodities trader who's got rich off inequality. He's coming around spreading his own brand of toxic hatred, trying to divide our communities. He pretends to be a man of the people just because he's got a pint in one hand and a cigarette in the other. But his people aren't us. His people aren't the plumbers or the plasterers. His people are the wealthy elite who've bled our country dry through the system of trickle-down economics. Now, it might have been a trickle-down, but it's been a flood-up. Reform offers nothing new. They're just recycled Thatcherite policies. They're just Tories in turquoise ties.
Mothin Ali to be talking about grifters is quite something. As Camilla Tominey responded, isn't the biggest scam here the Greens pretending you didn't celebrate the October the 7th attacks and describe a rabbi as an animal? But rabid Green Party supporters, like the truly nutty Carol Vorderman, are being normalised, even though her Easter message proved that she is completely unhinged.
The Easter Bunny has arrived with some good news because Nigel Farage, the lying charlatan who we know and loathe, is going down, down, down in the latest polls. One of the polls out this morning put Reform right down at 21%. In fact, when you look at the detail, the Green Party is nudging slightly ahead of Reform. But the great irony of this poll is that it has been undertaken by a famous right-winger, Michael Ashcroft, who's written many books with Isabel Oakeshott. If you don't know who she is, she's the blonde girlfriend of Richard Tice, Farage's deputy, and she's the one who scarpered off to Dubai saying, the VAT on private schooling's too much for me. And a second poll out today, which has been conducted by More in Common up in Scotland, show Reform diving there too. They're now well below Labour in the polls, SNP way out ahead, and now Reform are in third place. It's been such a tough week for Nigel. So, happy Easter bunnies. Reform are on their way out.
Can someone get her sectioned? That's her Easter message. But this is sinister. A Restore supporter asked Charlotte Gill, I do wonder how Carol Vorderman is funded these days. Same with Terry Christian. I'm pretty sure they're on the payroll for some wealthy lobby groups. Charlotte responded she's tied in with a lot of the EU Byline Times network groups. Links to Best for Britain and the European Movement, which have both had funding from George Soros. Not saying Vorderman is on the Soros payroll, but she's linked to groups that are. I have to say, though, Farage's Easter message only marginally better. Watch.
It's Easter. Happy Easter to all of you. Not, of course, that you know it's Easter, because it seems that now cities, towns, all over our country are really, really shy about advertising the fact. So why have we got this holiday? Well, it's very simple. It's all about the resurrection of Jesus Christ. That is the origin of this. And indeed, it is our Judeo-Christian culture that underpins everything in our country. Of course, we can be tolerant of all religions. We always have been. But isn't it about time we started to insist that this is who we are? So I wish you all a very good, peaceful, family time. And it reminds me of the founding principles of Reform UK, family, community, country. And it's worth all of us spending some time thinking about that over this break.
But as Connor Tomlinson responded, imagine saying our Judeo-Christian culture at Easter. And no, we haven't always been tolerant of other faiths, nor are we obliged to be. In a new video, Tomlinson has revealed how Reform has crashed support on the right with its weak source approach.
I spoke to some of the people in Reform who were part of Zia's team. This was around the same time, late 2024. And they said, don't worry. What we've got to do is we've got to appear moderate for a little while. We're going to get past the 2026 local elections, which are now coming up, and then we'll start engaging with the online right. Then we'll branch out from mainstream media and start talking to the podcast sphere. Then we'll unite the right and bring everyone together. And I said to them, guys, in the meantime, you're going to estrange a lot of people who would otherwise be doing free PR for you, who would be your candidates, who would be your canvassers, who would be your cheerleaders. And they are either going to wander down political cul-de-sacs and waste their time, or they're going to set up a rival power base and at the very least split the vote, if not reach an inflection point and surpass you, and you're going to be wondering what the hell happened.
Meanwhile, I can reveal today that Reform UK is in crisis ahead of the deadline to submit election candidates by 4 p.m. this Thursday, with social media influencers over the weekend being cold called by Reform HQ asking to stand as candidates. Now, one such influencer, who has no official connection with Reform and is not a party member, sent me the approach made to them. Listen.
We have called you today because Reform UK is still looking for candidates in your local area. With your support, we can make these local elections a referendum on Starmer and ensure everyone has a chance to vote for a Reform UK candidate. If you are willing to stand for us, please send us an email to candidates@reformparty.uk within the next 24 hours. We have one chance at this, and with your help, we really can turn this country around. Please consider standing, and we wish you the best.
How nuts is that? The deadline is on Thursday. You could tell that that guy is calling from a call center, which means they are desperate for people. And it backs up my previous reporting that cold callers have been chaotically approaching Reform members too to consider standing as paper candidates. Now, the Brexit Party founder turned Restore supporter Catherine Blakelot put it this way: Reform hasn't got enough candidates because thousands of people on the ground have moved to Restore. Make the move now, we plan to win. And even Andrew Pearce of the Daily Mail is reporting on a crisis within Reform UK. He revealed, I'm told there is mounting nervousness within the ranks. One senior figure admits to me there are jitters inside Reform's offices in Millbank Tower, New Labour's former Riverside bastion, ahead of the May 7th ballot. Farage faces a new and going threat to his right flank. In February, ex-Reform MP Rupert Lowe established a party called Restore Britain after Farage kicked him out when he criticised his leader's messianic management style to me in these pages. This week, Lowe reported that Restore, after less than 2 months, was already Britain's fourth largest party with 125,000 members, surpassing the Tories on 113,000 and more than double the Lib Dem membership. The Greens, Labour and Reform all have at least 200,000 members. The ex-investment banker who donates his MP's salary to charity tells me our aim is clear: to win the next general election. Pearce goes on, that may be ambitious, but Lowe's insurgent movement could undoubtedly bleed significant support from Reform. For years, British people on the right who were disappointed with the Tory party's liberal drift under David Cameron, Theresa May, Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak, from rising taxation to net zero legislation and military disarmament, were forced to default to Farage. Now, judging by Restore's membership figures, some believe they may have a new option in a party pledging the mass deportation of every illegal migrant, stripping benefits from healthy Britons who refuse to work as well as from non-British nationals, abolishing inheritance tax, and even proposing a referendum on the death penalty. Pearce goes on. Farage, I'm told, is aiming to win at least 1,000 council seats across England, with targets including Sunderland and South Tyneside, Norfolk, Suffolk and outer London boroughs of Bexley, Bromley, Havering and Barking and Dagenham. The party is also polling well in Scotland. A senior Reform figure tells me, considering where we were at the general election when we won 5 MPs, the results in May will be extraordinary. However, expectations have been set too high that we were going to win a landslide. We haven't controlled the messaging. The source said the war in Iran was another electoral drag. Nigel is friends with Trump, who started the war. No one should deny Farage's achievements. This is Pearce now. From a standing start, he has built Reform into a political force, now topping the national polls, and he remains as driven and energetic as ever. But equally, it has been hard for him to escape that caustic description by ex-Tory advisor Dominic Cummings that Reform boiled down to Farage plus iPhone. So this is really interesting to me because it's like finally the Daily Mail has just acknowledged the Rupert Lowe factor. And Rupert continues to refuse to hold back in a way that we know Farage now does. For example, he posted over Easter weekend after critics said there were too many white people at Restore meetings. Restore Britain has been attacked for a lack of diversity at our local branch meetings. I really cannot put in words how little I care. But still, the Reform UK shills in the MSM, especially GB News and especially Talk TV, refuse to see what's happening out there. Or maybe they don't refuse to see it, they just refuse to tell the truth about it. So Reform loyalist Alex Phillips keeps on convincing herself that the surging Restore Britain poll rating is thanks to an army of bots.
I think also Reform has lost a little bit of ground. I know that this is a bit controversial, and I also don't know if this is going to be a permanent thing or not. But Rupert Lowe's sort of startup little thing, I don't even know if it is an official political party standing in places yet. But
I think it has been registered with Elcom, and I think they are going to be standing council candidates, but only in Great Yarmouth, which of course is his constituency.
It is starting to become a party, if you like. Restore is never, I don't think, or certainly not in the short to medium term, is not going to be a party that is going to be able to win any seats beyond perhaps Great Yarmouth at a national level.
Even there, the polling doesn't look particularly good for Restore.
But what I would say is, oh yes, I don't think that it's going to be a sort of a wildly successful party. What I do think it could do is siphon away 5% of the vote from Reform, say, in some places, maybe 4, maybe 3, maybe 6 in others. Not a huge amount on the surface, but enough, I think, to pull down Reform's polling in some places that might give them pause for thought and think, ooh, maybe in certain areas we need to slightly change our strategy. I think it's a little bit of a shot across the bows for Reform. I think it's a reminder that, look, not everything goes your own way. And it's a reminder, actually, in Italian politics, for instance, as everybody remembers Matteo Salvini when he was the right-wing person and he was going to be the prime minister and he was going to sort everything out, and he didn't. And a party came from the right, which nobody thought was going to happen. The Lega Nord were outrightified by Fratelli d'Italia, and now what you have is an even more, ostensibly right-wing party that ended up taking power. I think it's just a little reminder.
It's interesting because looking at, and you can actually chuck this sort of stuff into, Grok or AI and say compare and contrast. When you look at the policy offer for both, I'd say Reform actually are the more right-wing. But there's a lot that happens on social media, and looking at an example, someone said Ceausescu then, Georgescu, crying out loud, completely different people in Romania. He was an absolute phenomenon on social media. Story behind that's quite interesting though, because indeed he was a phenomenon on social media. The EU then cancelled the election saying, well, it was all a load of bots. Indeed it was. But the bots were not foreign bots, the bots were European bots. And I think that something very fishy went on there indeed. And there's a big question to ask about something that's suddenly risen to such prominence online.
Okay, so I wanted to show you that because I think it's important you see the lengths that the right are going to try and delegitimize Rupert Lowe and restore Britain. Bots? Seriously? Let me tell you, Alex, and you know I love you, but it's not 120,000 bots who are spending their own hard-earned money to join Restore Britain. Other serious figures on the right are now calling for mergers, with Calvin McKenzie arguing, my bet is that come May the 6th, Reform does better than the 21% Lord Ashcroft poll predicts, a new low for Farage, and that the Tories do worse than 21%. Nevertheless, Nigel should show he's the bigger man and open talks with Kemi after next month's election. Unite the right. But Richard Tice's fiancée Isabel Oakeshott soon hit back. She said, you are echoing a lot of wheedling Tories. For 14 years, they betrayed voters and failed on every key measure. They brought our country to the brink. This is not some kind of Clegg Cameron situation. Calvin replied, except Cameron to Sunak betrayed us at every turn. But the reality is that a Labour Green Lib Dem offering will be too strong for Reform to defeat on their own. Now, there is no doubt that our country is on the brink under Slippery Starmer's Labour shit show, with social unrest growing over the now institutional levels of two-tier policing. As Chris Rose put it, look at how differently the police handled young football fans yesterday in comparison to the young looters in Clapham. They remembered how to use the batons again. Watch. Now compare that to Clapham.
Oh, look, you tried to chip him! You tried to chip him! You tried to chip him! Allah!
Gente, essa molecada daqui tá precisando de peia, velho. De peia. De peia. Uma peia bem grande, ó.
The police did nothing. The signs of societal decline are now everywhere to see. from London.
What? Fed's doing nothing, bro. Fed's doing nothing. Should we go in? Fuck it. Fucking, this is wild, bro. I'm recording the whole thing. This is wild, mate. Look at this shit. What the fuck, mate? I ain't even trying to get no Pokemon. I mean, this is just wild, mate. They broke open with their shoes everywhere, man. This is...
To Milton Keynes. To a bus in Coventry.
Yeah, she needs reporting. That's what she needs. Not one word. Why do you think the whole bus was disgusted with your reaction? not after you talk to me like a dog. Move up, girl.
I bet you drive it.
And then you need to stop sitting there staring at me like you're doing me. That's what she... I'll phone the police on both of you. Oh, well. Take me off the bus.
And anyone native who tries to step up and save our country is punished. Like Walter Smith. Walter Smith, the veteran Waitrose worker of 17 years, a hero in my view, who was sacked after tackling a shoplifter who was trying to steal luxury Easter eggs. Now, Mr. Smith recognised the shoplifter as a repeat offender and grabbed the bag from him. The thief snatched the bag back and a tug-of-war ensued between the pair before the bag ripped and the lint gold bunny eggs, which retail for £13 each, fell to the floor with one smashing to pieces. With his plan foiled, the shoplifter sprinted out of the shop. While Mr. Smith picked up a piece of broken chocolate and threw it out of frustration in the direction of some shopping trolleys, but did not aim it at the thief. He was scolded by his manager and had to apologise. But his superior still decided to escalate the matter higher, leaving Mr. Smith to go home, punching himself and questioning why he stopped the thief. A few days later, it gets worse. Mr. Smith was pulled into a meeting with 2 store managers. Having a feeling about what was about to happen, he pleaded with his bosses and told them Waitrose is like his family. But they still decided to fire their staff member of 17 years over the incident. Mr. Smith previously admitted staff had been told not to approach shoplifters, but said he was spurred into action after watching thieves get away with stealing from the shop every hour of the day for the last 5 years. He said it is everyone from drug addicts to teenagers swiping items, including alcohol, but staff are not allowed to do anything. Due to security being cut in the store with no guards working on Monday and Tuesdays, Mr. Smith and his colleagues were left without any help. He had recently moved into a studio flat on his own after only being able to afford to live in a flat share with other people for 25 years. Now he worries he could become homeless, and his confidence is on the floor. He told The Guardian, "I'm not a bad or violent or aggressive person. I just got frustrated seeing this day in, day out and not seeing Waitrose do much about it." Shame on you, Waitrose. I don't actually give a damn about your lengthy explanation. You should have stood by your man, just like you should have stood by Ben on Wine, who you sacked because of his right-wing political views. As Ross Kempsell of Guido Fawkes put it, reinstate this good guy Waitrose, please, or we will organise a boycott. Now, it's interesting because supermarkets have actually become ground zero of the assault on our day-to-day lives, with M&S seeming to do the opposite of Waitrose and speaking up for its under-attack staff by accusing London's failing mayor Sadiq Khan of being soft on crime after teenagers caused chaos in their Clapham store. Here's Adam Hawksby, the supermarket giant's head of external affairs, summing up how lawless London is becoming impossible to work in or run a business.
I think what we're seeing in our stores is that we sometimes bear the brunt of wider societal challenges. And look, we're not best placed to try and diagnose some of those root causes, but as I said, the Clapham incident was one. That was a group of young people, but we also see organised crime in our stores and crime gangs. We also see individuals that are under the influence of drugs and alcohol. So I think this is really complex. It's really systemic, which is why it's important that we have retailers and police forces and politicians all working side by side on this.
I should just say the Home Office have given us a statement from the Crime and Policing Minister, Sarah Jones, saying these disgraceful incidents are absolutely appalling. Mindless behaviour has no place in our society, and these criminals must face the full force of the law. We're giving police stronger powers, ending the immunity for thefts under £200 we were just discussing, so that shoplifters can be prosecuted. We urge the police to use all tools at their disposal to maintain order, protect workers and punish those responsible. What impact is it having on staff? Are people nervous about coming to work? And presumably it's not very good for business either.
Well, look, our colleagues are really resilient, and they will always manage these incidents in the best way they can. But it clearly has an impact. And look, we've spoken out primarily because of the number of comments we've had from colleagues. Sometimes when they've seen reports in the media that, you know, retail crime numbers are going down, and they say it really doesn't feel like that to us. And for them, it means, you know, they're worried about coming into work. They might be nervous about the journey home. And that's not a position that we want our colleagues to be in. So really it's with them at the forefront of our minds that we're engaging in this debate.
It is this societal crisis which is seeing desperate Brits increasingly turning to Restore Britain and, yes, the Green Party, and away from the newly establishment Reform UK. Now, the Superstar Panel. To Based and Bougie and Steph, the Alter Nerd. Steph, Reform UK don't want to admit it, but they're in crisis. They can't even get enough candidates, and the deadline for the elections is on Thursday. They're having to cold call influencers. I'm surprised you haven't been called yet, Steph. What do you think is going on, and why do you think that Restore Britain is stealing so much momentum?
A little bit of an exclusive for you, because I ain't even mentioned this publicly yet, but they have called me.
No!
Twice! Twice! Oh, let me tell you the ways. Okay, so beginning of this year, I email Reform and I tell them I want to cancel my subscription to them, my membership to them, because I'm over at Restore. They don't acknowledge my email. I email them way in advance of my yearly subscription to them. They take my yearly subscription by direct debit. And only after that do I then get an email saying, whoops, sorry, our bad. Yes, we've cancelled your membership and we're going to refund you your direct debit. I was like, too right. A couple of weeks later, so this is around about February time, I get a call from Reform and they're asking me to stand in the elections for my area. And I turned around and I says, have you actually checked your membership list? Because I'm not on it anymore. I'm with Restore. I'm not with you guys anymore. Okay. Last week, they tried calling again. We'd love for you to stand for us for the upcoming elections, this, that, and the other.
Even though you've actually said that you are a Restore member now.
Yeah, I'm full Restore member. So they're now trying to poach us from Restore to Reform. They are absolutely shameless about it. I've told them I'm with Restore, but yet they call me again last week wanting me to stand for Reform. It just shows how desperate they are and how much they're in a shambles and how much Rupert Lowe is really, really making a dent in Reform.
Absolutely. Because Based and Bougie, I have been saying for months, the Green Party, Zack, Polanski, the Tit Whisperer, Mothin, Ali, the Islamist, are going to end up being number one in the polls. And we saw it from that Lord Ashcroft poll over the weekend. Okay, it's only one, but the trend line is clear. And the thing is, Based, the only reason Reform UK is slumping is because of the launch of Restore. It's just that most pollsters don't yet track Rupert Lowe's party.
I'll be so honest with you, I don't think it has anything to do with Restore Britain. From my understanding, most of Restore support is on X, and only less than 27% of the population are on X. So I don't think it has to do anything with Restore. I think it has to do with the fact that majority of this country is left center. So the idea of migration or deportation is still new to people. And I know this because I'm out on the streets all the time asking people questions. And the idea of just deporting people is insane, let alone Restore Britain's policies. So no, I don't think it has anything to do with Restore. I don't think many people even know who Restore is unless it's on X. I think it just has to do with the fact that people are still adjusting to the fact that we need deportations. Mass migration is an issue. And not only that, but reform, they're just adjusting to it. So that's what I think.
But then what's interesting about that, though, Based, is that Reform UK have been moving to the left, right, for the argument that you make. Mm-hmm. But that's not working because their move to the left and their poaching all of these people from the Conservatives coincides with their massive slump in the polls.
Yeah, but we can say the same thing about, for example, Tommy Robinson. So Tommy Robinson started off on the EDL. He left the EDL because the EDL was too racist. But till this day, people can't wipe off the EDL history off of him. It's the same thing with Reform. They came in very, very hardcore saying they want to deport people. They want mass remigration and so on and so forth. But that stain just won't come off of them. So I think it's just all about public perception. People still see Reform as that right-wing Nazi party who's trying to deport everyone, and are not really aware of the fact that Reform is actually leaning more to the centre. For instance, when I went to a women's-only movement, so many people were saying Reform is a racist party. They weren't even aware that they had Zia Youssef. They don't even aware they have a Muslim male candidate. So yeah, I just don't think it has anything to do with Restore. I don't think most people are even aware of Restore unless you probably pay attention to politics. And if people were aware of Restore, I think they would think that Reform is actually more soft, actually. I think it would actually grow Reform support if people were aware of Restore.
The race debate in British politics is absolutely kicking off. You can't deny that. There is a huge split over ethnicity, what it means to be British, what it means to be English. And GB News actually has found itself as the ground zero of this argument over the past few days. Now, Nana Aquia, she's a good friend of mine, one of the hosts on GB News, clearly a patriotic woman, posted, I find it interesting reading some of the comments that some people think you can only be white and British. Now, that was after a debate between Amel Bajan and Stella from Greece, I think it is. I mean, can't stand the woman, if I'm totally honest. And I never had her on when I was at GB News. She's got a very difficult to pronounce last name, which I can't remember. But she's not a British citizen. So I do find it bizarre that GB News keep on turning to her to be a voice of the left when she's not even a British citizen. But on the right, and some would say the online right, whatever that means, there was the debate whether these people were actually the best to talk about this issue at all. With Bo Dade of the Lotus Eaters posting, all three people at that desk have ancestral homelands which aren't these islands. Classic GB News. So I just want to show you a portion of this clash on GB News.
Aman, am I a foreigner? Am I a foreigner?
Are you a foreigner?
Am I a foreigner?
Well, you answer the question.
You said
yeah.
that we are spending billions of pounds on foreigners on universal credit.
Yeah.
I have been here.
Foreign nationals.
I have lived here for 13 and a half years.
Right.
I'm not a British citizen because applying for a British citizenship costs £2,000.
Well, perhaps you should invest in that then.
And I did not have £2,000 lying around.
Have you got it now? You should do it.
I do not have a British citizenship. Tell me, if I fall sick tomorrow and I cannot work, should I be allowed to claim benefits?
No.
You think I should not be allowed to claim benefits? No. At what point do you believe that a person like me has sufficiently worked for long enough, paid into the tax system for long enough, to deserve to not go homeless, to not be able to pay for my rent or for my food?
That's a very simple answer to that question. That is, as soon as you want to become a citizen. So pay your £2,000 to become a citizen.
Wait a minute.
Do you have an affinity with Britain?
You know that I do.
Well, if you do, then I haven't become a citizen.
Listen, you can't have. Listen, this is what I see. Yeah, you want the benefits of being a citizen of this country, and you're qualified to do that. Then pay for it. That's what happens. In other countries, you don't get anything. If you're a foreign national suffering in those countries, go to the US.
And is that?
Hang on, let me finish. Sorry. You go to the US, you suffer. You're a foreign national. They say, "Well, you should have insurance. We're not paying for you." There's no way they'll do that. So I don't think that's hostile or horrible. You've come to this country. You love this country. You live in this country. You've lived for many, many years. It's £2,000. How much does your mobile phone cost?
And if you love this country, as both of you say you do,
I do, yes.
Then why do you criticize the things that make this country great?
Okay, so for me, that's nuts, because that's Stella Santakidou, who doesn't have citizenship, questioning Armand Bogle and Nana Acquair, who both do and are clear patriots. But this split on the right of politics is there. We can't deny it's there. Today, our superstar panelists, Steph the Alter Nerd and Based and Bougie, both brilliant young influencers in this country who are clearly patriotic. But what's interesting is that Based and Bougie has become a bit of a face of this discussion, because totally unprompted during a heated debate on this show on Good Friday between Gavin Bobby and Ricky Doolan, Minister Ricky Doolan, Based and Bougie was used as an example of a true patriot who really should throw the whole idea of ethno-nationalism under the bus. I want you to watch what happened, and I'm not sure if you've seen this, Based, so I'll bring you in after.
The ethno-nationalist argument is so stupid, because I'd much rather stand with a Based and Bougie over a Keir Starmer any day of the week.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, what do you say about someone like Based and Bougie, Gavin?
Based and Bougie is a foreigner. She may be very nice. I don't know her.
Nice.
I have very little to say.
Are we talking about nice?
She might be very nice.
Is it?
I don't know.
Ideology.
Gavin, I've just found
I was asked a question. I will finish. So I don't know, but in general, I think that foreign populations are going to have to be repatriated. And if you say, because I like this person, or I think this person is good, then what I will do is I will go to the most evil, nasty guy, and I'll say, you, Abu Hamza, pay me $500,000, and I'll give you a recommendation, and you can stay in the country. And I'm not the only one who's going to do that. So that is likely to happen.
What a truly obnoxious attitude and approach. Let me explain something.
Ideology, man.
But let me explain something. I happen to be married to an immigrant. And who are you to tell me my wife must leave the country? You obnoxious little man.
So, Base, that was sort of unexpected, right? It kicked off on Good Friday between the priests and Gavin Bobby, who runs this Mosque Busters account, which aims to stop the building of mosques in the UK. And you're obviously the pin-up girl for the likes of Ricky Doolan, who are what you would describe as civic nationalists, which is the reason why you obviously supported Tommy Robinson in the first place. Now, you know, for me, I just don't even see race. I don't see ethnicity. I want you and Steph on the show because I think you're both amazing patriots. But you can't deny now, Base, that colour and ethnicity and race has become part of this debate. So how do you feel about it? And how do you feel about being used as part of this debate now going forward?
For me, it's quite shocking that this debate is going forward, because I always thought it was simple. You have your ethnicity, then you have your nationality, then you have your culture, then you have your skin color. I've never denied the fact that I am ethnically Congolese. I couldn't even hide it if I tried to. But culturally and in terms of my nationality, Britain is literally all I know. So I find myself constantly having to explain something something that I've known and have admitted since 3 years old, that I'm ethnically one thing, but culturally and nationality, I'm a different thing. And this is the thing when it comes to ethno-nationalism. There's actually nothing wrong with being an ethno-nationalist. There's nothing wrong with wanting to preserve your race of people. Everyone around the world does this. The Africans, the Chinese, the Caribbeans, everyone is protective of their race because we are all tribal. But it becomes wrong when you start to just throw insults, for example, saying that I'm a foreigner. How could I be foreign to a country that I've literally been born in? I can literally count with one hand how many times I've left this country. To me, that's an insult. To me, you're just trying to tell me that I have absolutely nothing to do with this country. And the more people start to spew these kind of talking points, the more people start to turn their backs on the ethno-nationalists. So I'll always stand by the fact that the idea of protecting your race of people, it's okay. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I advise everyone to do that. But it's when you start to do the whole insulting, which I constantly see online, that's where, you know, the whole idea of ethno-nationalism just starts to look darker than it actually is.
Steph, the alternate, where do you stand on this?
I think it's absolutely ridiculous that there are idiots out there, and I'm going to put that lightly, seeing as we're on YouTube here, are calling Based and Bougie a foreigner. She's more British than a lot of them out there. She's literally on the front lines with Tommy Robinson, marching right at the front at the Unite the Kingdom rally, which, by the way, girl, like, I'm looking forward to seeing you there again. The next one coming up, but she's the freaking bed. Let's put it this way. That odious man that you had on the show, Dan, on Good Friday, I wonder how he would try and square the circle with someone like me. I'm white. I'm Caucasian. I sound Yorkshire because I am Yorkshire. But guess what? I'm dual nationality. I'm British, but I'm also Italian. So what? Does that mean that I have to be on the chopping block and I have to get out? Even though I was born here and I pay my taxes here and I contribute to the economy and I've never once claimed for any benefits, this, that, and the other, and never drained the economy. For me, it's like, stop trying to focus, let's say, on what they may consider the easy targets, because the easy targets are the wrong targets anyway, right? Focus on the issue at hand. Focus on the sector of people that are foreigners, that don't have British citizenship, that are bleeding this country dry. Focus on the illegal immigrants.
I think one of the problems here, though, Based, is that you've got the left trying to say that the English ethnicity doesn't exist. So, for example, take the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, who did an interview saying, I'm English, but then said people who want to preserve English ethnicity are wanting a little Britain or a little England. Whereas you acknowledge, right, that there is English ethnicity, but you put that in a different category to British nationality. So you would say that you are, what, African by ethnicity, but British by nationality.
Yeah, exactly that. And I thought we all knew this. I've never come across any person in my lifetime who's non-English who claims to be English.
But Shabana Mahmood now does, and that's the problem.
And I think, and this is why I hate to say this, but I somewhat understand the outrage and why people have to now come online and reiterate what Englishness is or Britishness is, because you do have people on the left. And I believe that Shabana Mahmood, she knew exactly what she was doing when she did that. She wasn't being dumb. You have people on the left who are trying to, let's just be real, they're trying to eradicate British culture and they're trying to eradicate the English people. And I'll be so honest with you, I love British culture, but I'll be the first to admit that me, myself, I cannot, make up British culture as authentically as someone who is ethnically and indigenously English. So I believe people need to stop doing that. People need to stop claiming to be something that they're not. You can say your nationality is one thing. You can say you identify with a culture, but in terms of your ethnicity, people need to stop doing that. So I can understand when a lot of people, English people, get frustrated. But at the same time, I don't think it's right to now start throwing insults towards people who actually love the country, people like myself and Baraka.
And are not the problem. Are not the problem. And that I think is the point, you see, because no one would go to Japan and try and erase the Japanese ethnic group. No one would do it to Mexico or Nigeria or Somalia. And so this is the problem, I think. It's like, Steph, there is a denialism going on about the fact that actually, as English people, it's absolutely okay to want to preserve the English ethnicity while also acknowledging that someone like Based and Bougie is, of course, a British citizen.
Absolutely. And going back to Shabana Mahmood there, if Shabana Mahmood is calling herself English, then guess what? I am declaring right now that I'm freaking Chinese. Like, come on, how ridiculous is that statement for Shabana Mahmood to make? Because let's put it this way, right? Wearing a headscarf, wearing the hijab, the niqab, this, that, and the other. Guess what? Little bit of a mind breaker here. That's not English. That's Islamic culture. That's Islamic identity. That's not British identity. That's not English identity. And so for her to turn around and say, I'm just as English as, you know, Steph the Alternate or Dan Wootton, this, that, and the other, pull the other one, not a chance. And this is a thing, and I've always made this argument myself. If I ever went to, let's say, Saudi Arabia, right, and I went there to live, do you think I'm going to be turning around and saying, do you know what? I don't agree with Sharia law because it's not part of my culture and what I believe in, so you need to change for me. No, I'm not. Because Saudi Arabia, they're an Islamic culture, they're an Islamic country, and they rule under Islamic law. That is their culture. How dare me as a foreigner turn around to them and say, you must change because of me? But that's what's happening right here in England right now and the rest of the UK. But somehow, because we stand up and say, no, we're not going to take this, enough is enough, we're then branded as far right, this, that, and the other. I'm sick and tired of it.
Okay, we are standing by to cross to the White House, probably at some point at the top of the hour, where Donald Trump is expected to deliver a bombshell press conference. You know, overnight, the left and actually a lot of the right are up in arms about his posts in terms of the bastards in Iran, the threat that he's making. In the past 2 hours, he has also launched a new attack on slippery Starmer. So there is going to be a lot of news made today. We will be bringing you this press conference live, so don't go anywhere. It is coming up very, very shortly. But first, cancel culture is far from over in Britain as the establishment are piling pressure on the Home Secretary to ban Kanye West from entering the country following the controversy surrounding the rapper headlining London's Wireless Festival. Now, this all started when Slippery Starmer told The Sun on Sunday at the weekend that it was deeply concerning that West had been booked to perform at Wireless despite previous anti-Semitic comments and celebration of Nazism. Now, look, here's the thing. Kanye, clearly a bit of an usser. I don't disagree with that. I've actually interviewed the guy. He's troubled. We know that. He's a troubled artist. But I am very concerned about this because we're becoming a censorship state. And let's think, and I say this, by the way, to all of the supporters of Israel and all of the Jewish friends of this show, if we ban Kanye West and the government does that, how quickly are we going to see more and more people start being banned from entering the country on so-called grounds of Islamophobia? I am a free speech absolutist. Everyone has a choice not to attend and not to support this event. But if we just ban people all the time, I think we're heading down a path that we don't want to. And it wasn't just Starmer doing this, by the way. Sadiq Khan said the past comments and actions of the rapper are offensive and wrong and not reflective of London's values. And even the Tory, Kemi Badenoch, suggested that Kanye shouldn't be platform. That's a term of the left. Watch.
A huge increase in anti-Semitism all across the world, and we need to do everything we can in order to stop the rise in hatred of Jewish people. That does mean not platforming people who make anti-Semitic statements or who put out anything that will incite violence and hatred towards Jews.
And sure enough, UK ministers have just said that Kanye West's permission to enter the UK is under review. So it looks like they're going to ban this guy. They're giving into pressure from freaks like Ed Davey. Watch.
This is a person who wrote a song saying Heil Hitler, praising Adolf Hitler. I can't think of anything more anti-Semitic. Now, the Australian government has earlier banned him from going to Australia for those anti-Semitic hate speech, and we should too. The Home Secretary should ban him from coming to this country. We've got to take anti-Semitism more seriously. We can't have people like him with that horrible song coming. And you know, we've argued, for example, that the IRGC should be banned. The Conservatives refuse to do it. This government's refused to do it. We need to get tougher on anti-Semitism.
Now, you know what happens here when the cancel culture mob hits. The main sponsors of the festival, Pepsi, have announced they have withdrawn, with Diageo, owner of Johnny Walker, and Captain Morgan following suit. We've had 2 more pullouts announced today. PayPal will not feature any of its branding for Wireless Festival moving forward, and Rockstar Energy have pulled their sponsor too. The Daily Mail reported that Tottenham Hotspur Stadium blocked West from performing there before it was announced he would headline Wireless. I don't mind any of that, to be honest. I mean, it is capitalism in practice, and brands never want to associate with anyone controversial on the right, so I guess why should Kanye be any different? But more chilling is its Labour MPs piling pressure on Starmer to go a step further and ban this guy from being able to come here at all. And remember, that is what we have seen with other lefty countries like Australia in regards to folk like Candace Owens and Kelly J. Keane. The calls for banning the rapper from the UK infected the wider political spectrum too. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp posted on X Kanye West is guilty of appalling anti-Semitic and pro-Nazi comments he had written to the Home Secretary. Sajid Javid, the former Home Secretary, said Wireless Festival's booking of Kanye West is disgraceful. Yes, he has spoken about mental health challenges. That should be met with sympathy, but declaring yourself a Nazi and promoting a song called Heil Hitler should have consequences. And these consequences don't include being given a stage to spread your hate to thousands of young Londoners. Piers Morgan. We know Piers Morgan, right, is the biggest hypocritical buffoon because his show is literally called Uncensored. But what does he want to do? Censor him. Shouldn't even be a debate. Kanye's Hitler-loving, Nazi, slathering, Jew-hating bullshit should be disqualifying for appearance at any music festival. Ironically, though, not disqualifying from him appearing on Uncensored for you to make money from the interview on YouTube. One rule for thee, but not for me, Piers Morgan summed up. As for Katie Hopkins, I'm with her. She wrote, a British Prime Minister getting involved in a musician coming to the UK is bloody ridiculous. It is not compulsory attendance. Want to see Kanye? Buy a ticket. Don't, then stay home. Can we quit banning people on the basis of someone else's perceived offence? FFS. And this is the thing. And I'm going to bring my superstar panel in on this, Based and Bougie and Steph the Alternate. This is the thing. You can hate what Kanye West did. But if we become a censorship state-based, this is going to go to a dark place. And I just beg and urge the right to start thinking about what type of country we are becoming when we slam the door shut on influencers or musicians who we don't like. It's chilling. And it's going to lead somewhere very, very worrying, where soon we'll see Jordan Peterson banned. Soon we'll see Candace Owens banned. Soon we'll see Tucker Carlson banned. Soon we'll see Megyn Kelly banned. This is where we're heading.
Are people forgetting that Kanye West has already apologized multiple times to the Jewish community? Are we also not forgetting that he pretty much lost $1 million in a day? Like, he lost so much. He lost his company. He lost his marriage. He lost everything. And he apologized for it. I'm just so sick and tired of this culture that is, you know, on the rise, where it's like once a person makes a mistake, there is no room for redemption. I hate that. Are we forgetting that we're dealing with human beings and not these robots that we just program and tell what to do? And the minute the robot doesn't act accordingly, we throw it away. No, we're human beings. We make mistakes. Not only that, but the people who are saying that Kanye West should be banned from the country, who makes you the arbiter of what people can and cannot listen to? How are you trying to tell me what I can and cannot listen to? If you don't want to listen to it, just don't buy the ticket or just don't air it on your TV. It's that simple. I'm just really, really sick and tired of this cancel culture. I don't agree with a lot of the things that Kanye West has said. I think he took it a little bit too far, especially with the song. But at the end of the day, I feel like sometimes, just sometimes, we need to be able to separate the person and the things that they've done in the past from the music. And I would be lying if I said Kanye West doesn't make amazing music. He is talented. And even if people try to cancel him, like we've seen in his recent concert, he's just not cancelable. He's uncancelable in the sense that people will not agree with what he has to say, but they will always agree with his art because he is a talented genius.
Steph, the alternate, where do you stand?
I think it's a load of BS, really, at the end of the day, what's going on here. Because Tuti Akia is so happy, right, to let the president of Syria in, who used to be leader of Al-Qaeda in Syria, shake his hand, have meetings with him, this, that, and the other. He's happy for the likes of him to come into UK. He's happy for the likes of a buttload, thousands upon thousands of undocumented illegal immigrants into this country, right? Free to, let's be clear here, right? Rape our women and children, bleed our benefit system dry. But oh my goodness, Kanye West is about to enter the UK. Everyone, panic, battle stations. I'm like, she's the freaking bed. At least if Kanye is coming in, he's contributing to the economy. Right. And ultimately, at the end of the day, acknowledging his past comments, which, of course, for me, they're disgusting. He has apologised for them, based on Bougie is right. But ultimately, there are those that still want to see him perform live. I mean, I've seen pictures of that 2-day residence that he had at the Sphere in Las Vegas. Freaking amazing. Sold out, 80,000 people. Whether you like it or not, people still want to see him perform live. And we should leave it to the freedom of choice for people to either buy a ticket or not to see Kanye. We shouldn't allow the government to take that choice away from the people, because then where does it end?
Yeah, where does it end, based? That's the thing, where does it end? But it is very clear, by the way, that there is going to be a ban, isn't there? Because this is what happens with the mob. And people don't think about the consequences.
Right. And I just think the people that are complaining about, Kanye West being censored are the same people that are going to complain about, people censoring criticism of Islam. Like, I'm so sorry, but I'm a free speech absolutist. Even if I disagree with someone, say what you want to say. So the same anger I would have if someone was banned from the country for saying something about Islam, I believe a political commentator called Eva, I don't know her last name, she was also banned from the UK. That made me angry. So it's also going to make...
Yes, Eva Vladenbroek.
Yes. And not only that, but I just miss the days like in the early 2000s, the early 90s, where we just made fun of each other. Of course, Kanye West took it too far with the Hail Hitler song, but there was a time where we could just make fun of each other and make stereotypes, and it was never that deep. Nobody was getting banned from countries. So I just think people, again, need to start treating human beings as human beings and not these robots that you program something in, and the minute the program doesn't work, you throw them away. People make mistakes. He's apologized. He's lost everything. How much more punishment does he need?
Breaking right now, Donald Trump has resurrected his war with the British Prime Minister, Slippery Starmer. Because when he was asked about whether the disunited kingdom could be resurrected this Easter, he raised the prospect of our failed leader becoming another Neville Chamberlain. Watch.
Have you spoken with Keir Starmer, and also, do you believe the UK could resurrect like Jesus this Easter weekend?
Well, that's what they need. They have a long way to go. The UK has a long way to go. We don't want another Neville Chamberlain. Do we agree? We don't want Neville Chamberlain.
Of course we don't. But that's what we've got. We also have a whole load of hysteria over Trump's Truth Social post, where he wrote, Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the fucking strait, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Praise be to Allah. President Donald J. Trump. And the thing is, what you get from the mainstream media and the political class, especially in the United Kingdom, is complete bias and hysteria every time Trump either drops his metaphorical truth bomb or an actual bomb. They still do not understand what this guy is trying to do. But the other problem that I have is that it's a complete two-tier media system where their coverage of Trump is of total contrast to their coverage of Joe Biden. So, for example, we got the deranged Liberal Democrat leader, Ed Davey, posting threatening war crimes and mocking Islam isn't a sign of strength, it's a sign of weakness. The PM should rule out UK forces and airfields being used for any attacks on Iranian civilian infrastructure. What more will it take for Starmer to call off the royal visit Trump craves? Oh yes, Ed, mocking Islam. Just lock him up. How dare he? And this is a suicidal empathy, isn't it? From our political class who would rather see the United Kingdom punished, who would rather see a despotic regime in Iran continue killing 45,000 protesters simply because of a deranged hatred of Donald Trump. And by the way, that isn't me saying that the UK should get involved in this war. I'm actually in the Restore Britain camp on this. I don't think we have the wherewithal or the resources to do that. But that also doesn't mean I buy into the total hysteria which is currently being thrown at Trump. And I think the worst example that I saw of this was from Sly News and its crooked and biased American correspondent, James Matthews, who doesn't even try anymore to be a reasonable, rational broadcaster. He is a commentator masquerading as a broadcaster on a station meant to be regulated by the off-communists. Watch this.
I mean, these are the words, surely, of somebody who is losing the argument, is seeking for new and perhaps darker methods to resolve an intractable situation. For the 47th president of the United States to use these kind of terms, the F word, the B word, undermining the civil norms of negotiation. And we have seen how far that has taken Donald Trump at this stage. Not very far, actually, is the answer, and some distance from the end game. Iran is in a position where it has demonstrated military effectiveness and throughout has resisted pressure via social media from Donald Trump. So, you're talking about a sovereign country, a sovereign nation, proudly resisting American pressure. How Donald Trump thinks this is going to work is a question actually for him alone. I do think it raises questions about his state of mind and also about his approach to this whole affair. If the US military and if this country is to trust in measured leadership that protects American lives, preserves American interests, and isn't a matter of throwing the kitchen sink at Iran with the attendant dangers that involves, essentially burning the house down, then you have to be concerned, I think, at where he is taking this, if that posting is a reflection of his state of mind going into this. It sounds unhinged. And interestingly, well, in terms of the juxtaposition, it's interesting. I'm reading that he's spoken to Fox News, Jonathan. He says there's a good chance of a deal being reached tomorrow. He's repeated his threats, but reckons that there is cause for optimism. Yeah, and adding that Iran is negotiating now. So quite how the two of those social media postings or media performances sit together is quite
I can't. Sorry, I can't. We've got to stop. His state of mind? You fucking propagandists, you didn't once, James Matthews, you didn't once in 4 years talk about the state of mind of Joe Biden, who was walking around like a blubbering idiot. So you can criticize Trump for policy reasons, yes. But let's go now to the White House and hear live from the president.
It's a great honor to be with you, and happy Easter. We had a great Easter. This is one of our better Easters, I think, in a lot of different ways. I can say militarily, it's been one of the best. So, good afternoon. We have quite a bit to discuss. We'll go into pretty good detail. And we have the people that are most involved. We'll give you exactitude. And we're here today to celebrate the success of one of the largest, most complex, most harrowing combat searches I guess you would call it a search and rescue mission, ever attempted by the military. Generally, when planes are knocked down in war, especially when you're fighting a strong group, an evil group, you can't really do this because you send in 200 men to pick up one, and it's something that's usually not attempted as much as you want to attempt. And bad things happen to that one or two. And in this case, we did two, and it might not have been attempted before, but we did. And we had great talent, but we got a little luck too, I would say. And we were helped by a lot of people, a lot of great people. And it was an honor to be involved with it. It's very historic. This is a rescue that's very historic. It'll go down in the books. Late Thursday night, an American F-15 fighter jet went down deep inside enemy territory in Iran while participating in Operation Epic Fury, where we're doing unbelievably well, well at a level that nobody's ever seen before. The entire country can be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow night. Both members of the crew ejected from the aircraft and landed alive. On Iranian soil, I immediately was asked to make a decision. I ordered the U.S. Armed Forces to do whatever was necessary to bring our brave warriors back home. A risky decision, because we could have ended up with 100 dead as opposed to 1 or 2. It's a hard decision to make. But in the United States military, we leave no American behind. We don't do it. Within hours, our armed forces deployed 21 military aircraft into hostile airspace, many flying at very low altitude, being shot by bullets. You bring rifles into play when you're going that low, but there are also certain advantages. And in broad daylight over Iran for 7 hours, at times facing very, very heavy enemy fire. We have a helicopter that's got a lot of bullets in it. It's amazing. We just realized how good those weapons are. Our machines are. Nobody has the equipment that we have, and nobody has the military that we have. Not even close. We're the most powerful military anywhere in the world by far. The flight crews and warfighters aboard those aircraft took extraordinary risks to rescue their fellow service members. This first wave of search and rescue forces successfully located the pilot of the F-15, and he was extracted from enemy territory by an HH-60 Jolly Green II helicopter. Fabulous machine as our warriors faced gunfire at very close range. It's amazing that when you look at the machinery, what happened, that nobody was even injured. Meanwhile, the second crew member, a weapons system officer, highly respected colonel, had landed a significant distance away from the pilot. When you're going at those speeds, even if you go out 2 or 3 seconds later, it's miles and miles away because you're going fast. He was injured quite badly and stranded in an area teeming with terrorists from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps rough group, as well as besieged militia and local authorities. Many, on top of everything else, they told the communities actually within inside of Iran, the people of Iran, they were given a tremendous incentive to find this pilot. Despite the peril, the officer followed his training and climbed into the treacherous mountain terrain and started climbing toward a higher altitude, something they were trained to do in order to evade capture. They want to always go as far away from the site of the shoot down. You want to go as far away because they all head right to that site. You want to be as far away as you can. And he was injured, and he was an amazing, amazing thing. He scaled cliff faces, bleeding rather profusely, treated his own wounds, and contacted American forces to transmit his location. They have a very sophisticated beeper-type apparatus that is on them at all times. And when they go out on these missions, they make sure they have lots of battery space, and they're in good shape. And this one worked really well, amazingly, saved his life. We immediately mobilized a massive operation to retrieve him from the mountain holdout, and he kept going higher and higher. The mountain kept getting rougher and rougher, and really very, very hard to find. The second rescue mission involved 155 aircraft, including 4 bombers, 64 fighters, 48 refueling tankers, 13 rescue aircraft, and more. We were bringing them all over, and a lot of it was subterfuge. We wanted to have them think he was in a different location because they had a vast military force out there. Thousands of people were looking. So we wanted them to look in different areas, so we were scattered it all over like we were right on top of them. We had 7 different locations where they thought, and they were very confused. They said, well, wait a minute, they've got groups here, they've got groups there. It's an amazing thing. I was listening to these great people, these great generals. General Raisin Cain was amazing, and Pete Hegseth was amazing. But I listened to the whole thing. It was pretty amazing. So they had all these different sites where everybody thought he was located. We think we have him over there because they have 9 planes circling a little area that's 25 miles down the coast. So in a breathtaking show of skill and precision, lethality and force, America's military descended on the area, the real area, engaged the enemy, rescued the stranded officer, destroyed all threats, and exited Iranian territory while taking no casualties of any kind. The heroic F-15 weapon system officer had evaded capture on the ground in Iran for almost 48 hours. That's a long time when you're in tough shape and when you're bleeding. It's a long time. When we left, as you probably know, we had 2 large planes, pretty old planes. It carried a lot. We needed a lot more equipment going in than coming out, obviously, because going in, we needed to be able to scale mountains, and we had a lot of equipment. But the sand was sandy, wet sand, so we thought there may be a problem taking off because of the weight of the plane, and then we also had all the men jumping back onto the planes, and they got pretty well bogged down, and we had a contingency plan, which was unbelievable, where lighter, faster aircraft came in, and they took them out. We blew up the old planes. We blew them up to smithereens because we had equipment on the planes that, frankly, we'd like to take, but I don't think it was worthwhile spending another 4 hours there taking it off. So we didn't want anybody to have, we have the best equipment anywhere in the world. We didn't want anybody examining our anti-aircraft and other equipment. So these were large planes that were old and pretty old, and we blew them up, and we had faster, lighter planes come in, and they were able to land on the sand. We needed the bigger planes because we had so much equipment that we needed. We took 3 helicopters over there, which were very strongly used and couldn't have lived without them. They did, and they performed unbelievably well. And if you'd see it, you wouldn't believe it. They came off the plane, and these guys had them, the rotors were off. They rebuilt these helicopters in less than 10 minutes. And that was one of the more amazing things. These are helicopters, small, unbelievably powerful, but small, very small, so it can get into certain areas. And they got them off the plane, and they rebuilt all 3 of them in a matter of less than 10 minutes. It's pretty amazing what the genius of these people. Who would think that? You'd think it would take 5 days to build them. And in some companies, it would take 5 days, and they wouldn't do it well. But they served us well. As Commander-in-Chief, I never forget the extraordinary risk taken by the warriors that we send into battle, and the genius. I mean, think of it, having a contingency of 3 planes waiting because we think the sand is so bad that we probably won't be able to take off. And the planes really got bogged. The sand this was not much of a runway. This was a farm, not a runway. It's a farm, but it did the trick. But to have a contingency as opposed to having to wait 2 days, can you imagine right in the middle? This was central. This was right you would call it central casting if you were doing a movie for location. And probably the toughest area of Iran where we'd be sitting there. So these planes came in, those pilots came in so fast and so quick and got out of there. Everybody got aboard and just got 15-minute intervals. One load out, one load out, one load out. It happened. And we were watching and we said, that's amazing. It's, in many ways, I was almost more impressed by the contingency that we had than the fact that, if we would have had a runway or decent soil, but it was an amazing thing. But we thank God for every single one of them and the talent. The genius is not even talent, it's genius. It's the whole ball game, every one of them. If you look at what we did with Maduro, we went into a military compound, a massive, with thousands and thousands of soldiers, and within a matter of minutes, and he lived behind iron doors. There were steel doors, broke them down so quickly. And within almost minutes, he was in the back of these planes. It was a similar group. Incredible. We have incredibly talented people. And if the time comes, we move heaven and earth to bring them home safely. We're going to bring our people home safely. I want to thank every member of the U.S. Armed Forces involved in these historic operations. They really were historic. It's just not something that's done. And you'd understand it. Not that they don't want to do it, but when you're going into areas, when you look at these helicopters, when you look at the amount of bullets and everything else that they took, when you go into these areas, you don't come out like we came out. God was watching us, I tell you. Well, it was the Easter, we were in the Easter territory, I guess, but God was watching us. Amazing. Because when you look at the machinery, they took damage. It tells you. First thing I said is, these are unbelievable machines, how they flew back and not even much of a problem. But these two extraordinary rescues, because it was two, and as you probably know, we didn't talk about the first one for an hour, and then somebody leaked something, which we'll hopefully find that leaker. We're looking very hard to find that leaker, and talked about there's somebody missing. They basically said that we have one and there's somebody missing. Well, they didn't know there was somebody missing until this leaker gave the information. So whoever it was, we think we'll be able to find it out because we're going to go to the media company that released it and we're going to say, national security, give it up or go to jail. And we know who, and you know who we're talking about, because some things you can't do. Because when they did that, all of a sudden, the entire country of Iran knew that there was a pilot that was somewhere on their land that was fighting for his life. And it also made it much more difficult for the pilots and for the people going in to search for him. All of a sudden, they know that there's somebody out there. They see all these planes coming in. It became a much more difficult operation because a leaker leaked that we have one, we've rescued one, but there's another one out there that we're trying to get. So actually, the country, Iran, put out a major notice, you all saw it, offering a very big award for anybody that captures the pilot. So in addition to a hostile, very talented, very good, very evil military, we had millions of people trying to get an award. So when you add that to it, but we have to find that leaker because that's a sick person. Probably didn't realize the extent of how bad it was. I can't imagine that the person did, but we're going to find out. It's national security, and the person that did the story will go to jail if he doesn't say, and that doesn't last long, and I think everybody would understand it. They put this mission at great risk. They put that man at great risk, and they put the hundreds of people that went in looking for him, because everyone now knows that we're going in. Over the past 37 days, America's armed forces have carried out more than 10,000 combat flights over Iran, unheard of, striking more than 13,000 targets. The F-15 we lost last week was the first manned aircraft downed by the enemy in this entire operation with thousands and thousands of flights. They got lucky. It was a lucky hit. You know, eventually you get lucky. But we got lucky too because we got both of them back. But it's a record that is unparalleled in the history of military air operations. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. It's such an honor to be involved with it. We were up late at night, and then we were waiting for those contingent planes to come in, and we say, come on, let's go, get in, because they're waiting out on this farm without a runway, with wet, crummy soil, sand, mostly sand, wet sand, and it eats planes alive, and we're waiting, and we're saying, I hope that one can land and take off. And they came in like magic, boom, 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 one after another. It was like genius. I'm so impressed by that. Because we were a little concerned. We said, boy, if they don't get in and get up fast, we're sitting in them. And that's called Iran Prime, right, General? That's where the whole bet is. And here we are sitting there waiting for a plane. But they came in so fast and so hard, and these guys knew exactly what to do. Let's go, come on, get in, let's go, blah. They came one right after another, not at the same time. They don't want to come at the same time. They had to come right after each other. They didn't have any room. There was barely any room to land. Tiny little patch of very wet earth and sand. So I'm so proud of the people that I have standing up here with me, and many others that worked. I mean, so many. Steve Witkoff's over here. He's doing fantastically. Jared Kushner. But the people that are here, the job they did is amazing. And I think I'm going to introduce the head of the CIA, and he is a man he's central casting, okay? If we cast a movie, he's going to play the head of the CIA. He's one of the few. John Ratcliffe, he did a phenomenal job that night. He did something that I don't know if you want to talk about it. If you want, you can. I'm not sure he's supposed to. I'm not going to talk about it. But the CIA was very responsible for finding this little speck. It's like they used an expression on one of the shows. A general was talking about, it's like finding a needle in a haystack, finding this pilot. And the CIA was unbelievable. And you may, if you can, you'll talk, it might be classified, in which case I'd have to put him in jail if he talks about it. And I don't want to put him in jail. He doesn't deserve that. So, John, do you want to say a few words? Thank you.
Okay, so while we are waiting for Trump to face questions from the international media, let me bring in my brilliant superstar panel. There they are. Lee Cohen is a foreign affairs expert based in Florida. He joins us alongside YouTube sensations Based and Bougie and Steph the Alter Nerd. Lee Cohen, there was a lot of anticipation about this press conference, and of course the questions are yet to come after Donald Trump's post yesterday, which Marjorie Taylor Greene described as being almost unhinged. She said that everyone in his administration that claims to be a Christian needs to fall on their knees and beg forgiveness from God and stop worshipping the president and intervene in Trump's madness. Do you think he's proven today yet that he's not mad?
I think we have to consider the source. If that isn't the pot calling the kettle black, I can think of few people more unhinged than Marjorie Taylor Greene. However, I don't think Trump is mad. I think, as always, we have to take what Trump says not literally, but seriously. And what I'm hoping to hear, Dan, in this press conference, certainly President Trump gave a wonderful elegy of that mission that truly was a needle in a haystack. I mean, it's amazing what they did. But I want to hear more particulars about, is he going to double down on the deadline where Trump vowed every power plant and every bridge, threatened every power plant and bridge in Iran? I want to hear any further mention of the Karg Islands plans, because that was a major point of strangling Iran economically. I want to hear also if he's going to take any further jabs at Starmer and at Europe, which I think, is certainly primed to happen. So these are the things I'm really hoping that we learn out of this press conference.
Based in Bougie, what do you think so far? And is Donald Trump right to suggest that slippery Starmer might be another Neville Chamberlain?
I think going back to Trump's tweets, I think sorry if I forgot your name, but the person who was speaking
Lee
just before,
Cohen.
I'm really sorry, Lee Cohen. I think we need to take Trump's words very, very seriously. I have a lot of Iranian friends, and if the people were to hear just how gruesome the Islamic regime in Iran is, they would be saying that what Trump said was absolutely nothing. Trump was actually being kind in what he said on Twitter. I want people to understand that this Islamic regime killed 40,000 people in one day. In one day, guys. This is a gruesome regime. This is a regime that is literally throwing acid in women's faces for simply protesting because they don't want to wear a headscarf. And yet people are saying that what Trump is doing is extreme. And this is the tired talking points from the left that I am becoming very exhausted with, is just them not being able to recognize real extremism. When it's someone who is white, when it's someone who's a male, when it's someone who's a Christian, when it's someone who's a capitalist, simply typing something on X, that's not extreme. When Islamists are literally killing people in the 40,000s, oh, that's not extreme at all.
Steph the Alternate, your verdict?
My verdict so far on of what we've heard from Trump so far is, yeah, it's great to hear a little bit more about the rescue attempts that were successful. Fair enough, but like Lee Cohen says, I want to hear more now. I want to hear more on, will he now carry out his threat come, for want of a better phrase, D-Day? I want to know more about what his intentions are to try and reopen the Strait of Hormuz, how he's going to really put Iran in a corner to get that to happen. And to follow on a little bit from what Based and Bougie has been saying there, the left can kiss my backside because they're all about, oh, this is bad, this is wrong, and that's how I hear them say now. That's how I hear them talk, right? Because they're absolute idiots. Because they're, but for me, it's like, well, hang on a minute. All right, you don't want this war to happen. You don't want Trump to go in this, that, and the other. But hang on a minute. Have any of you idiots actually asked what the Iranian people want? For months and months and months and months, the Iranian people were shouting, screaming for Donald Trump to help them, screaming for Donald Trump to militarily intervene. And now he has done. The left are all, he's an international war criminal. He's broke international war crimes. We got to take him to the Hague. Hang on a minute. You're focusing on the wrong dude here. How about the IRGC? They're the ones that have committed the war crimes. Like Based and Bougie said, 40,000 people in one day. And that, unfortunately, guys, is the tip of the iceberg. They're still doing it to this day. Trump is the good guy here, not the bad guy.
And then, Lee, we've got to talk about the duplicitous, deceitful mainstream media that spent 4 years, Lee, studiously avoiding even the slightest coverage about the clear mental frailties, and that is being kind, of Joe Biden as president. But now, as I showed you at the start, you've got Sly News over here saying, oh, clearly we've got to talk about Trump's mental state. Well, I'm sorry. I mean, today he has been out in front of the cameras for hours and hours on end. Do you, Lee, see anything wrong with Trump's mental state?
No, I say absolutely nothing wrong with Trump's mental state. And he puts the media, you know, the mainstream media right in their place. Dan, when you showed that clip of who was the chap from Sly News that you showed?
James Matthews, the US correspondent, who's as crooked and biased as they come, Lee.
I mean, with fangs dripping.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy wants the bad guys to win. He wants the guys who enslave women and who hang gays and who torture the people of Iran who just want to live their lives like people in free societies do. He wants the victory to go to the other side. And that is absolutely unconscionable. And it's all owing to his massive and incomprehensible hate of Donald Trump. He doesn't care if the world goes up in flames. He just wants to see Donald Trump fail.
Yes, and oh my goodness, loving all of you on the live chat as we await for Donald Trump to ask questions. Thank you so much. As Annabelle says, Trump's mental state after demented Joe Biden? Are you flipping kidding? Mirror8933 just says sly news, bastards. Paul says Trump has his faculties. And Vicky Gonzalez says Trump is awesome for the American people. So lots of interesting comments coming in on the live chat as we await this live press conference where I think Donald Trump is going to be hit hard, isn't he, Steph? Because people are so furious about that Truth Social post.
He always gets hit hard, really, at the end of the day. Mainstream media is always out to get him. So whatever angle they can try and go at to try and corner him, they're going to try. Their problem is that they always fail because Trump seems to always be 2-3 steps ahead of them. So I'm actually looking forward to it and seeing Trump completely expose the fraudsters in mainstream media yet again. Because for those that are turning around and they're like, oh, don't you think what you're doing is in Iran is wrong, this, that, and the other? That kind of questioning, it's as if they're like the propagandists for the Islamic regime. No, it's not wrong. It's the right thing for Trump to be doing what he's doing in Iran at the moment. You should be supporting your president in this because the Iranian people wanted this to happen in the first place. So instead of questioning his so-called faculties, this, that, and the other, actually support him and be like, okay, what's going to happen next? Get the factual information instead of trying to spin it and be all negative Trump against him. Because that's not going to help anything. It's not going to further matters at all.
No, I mean, the
well
problem
said,
is...
Steph.
Yes,
yeah, well
indeed. The problem is, though, Base, right? The media, the mainstream media, do have Trump derangement syndrome. And see, it sounds like such a boring thing to say, but it's like, come on, they're actually getting worse, not better.
They're getting worse, but it's actually working against them because this is a man that literally got shot and stood up and said, fight, 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 fight.
Well,
and
a lot of people are now saying that's faked.
Oh my gosh, so ridiculous. We literally saw the fear in his eyes like that. You can't tell me that. I know when
and someone died. Someone literally died. A Trump supporter died, but they're now trying to say that whole thing was fake.
Right. And you cannot tell me that was fake. And I just think that it's working against their favor because you see hundreds of thousands of Iranians on Instagram and on social media basically explaining just how gruesome the Islamic regime is in Iran. And then you have people on the left side of the media saying, no, actually, it's good for the Iranians. They're over-exaggerating. No, they need this. Who are these people to tell the Iranians what they need? I hate this behavior. For instance, I saw a recent post by Candace Owen. She said something along the lines of, the Trump administration is acting very satanic. So wait, the 40,000 people who were killed in Iran by the Islamic regime, that wasn't satanic? Women being thrown acid in their face, that isn't satanic? I'm so tired of people trying to tell other people how to feel and what's best for them. The Iranians have been screaming for the top of the lung for the last 47 years for some kind of support from the West. Trump has intervened, the Iranians are unhappy, and then you have this leftist media having the nerve to say, no, actually, Trump is doing the wrong thing. I'm not going to swear, but these people seriously need to F themselves.
Lee, it is interesting, though, because this split on the right in the United States has been vicious, and it was coming. We've seen it coming ever since the split over the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the people who say that unless you're condemning Candace Owens, for example, you're not a true conservative, which has meant that previous coalitions between, for example, my friend Megyn Kelly and the likes of Ben Shapiro at the Daily Wire are now well and truly over. And this war, Lee, seems to be another fault line. And actually, even though Donald Trump said earlier today at the White House, 100% of MAGA are behind the war in Iran, that isn't true, is it, Lee? Because he did go into office promising the end of forever wars. And the problem is, at this point, there doesn't seem to be an exit strategy.
No, I think you're precisely right. I certainly don't think 100% are behind, and I don't know exactly what the numbers look like. But these fault lines are dangerous, Dan. There's no question about it, and I would love to see us all singing more from the same song sheet, particularly with what is at stake here. I feel blessed to be in such good company as Steph and Based and you, because I feel among very logical people who might not agree on everything, but see the light and see the importance of the mission. And I think that's what's really important. And these sort of internecine struggles between who's trying to grab the spotlight are just really not helpful when we consider that this war for the West, if you will, I don't think that's painting the stakes too high, is really what's unfolding before our eyes.
Okay, I'm going to put all three of you on the spot. Ask Donald Trump. We know the mainstream media are going to ask some appalling questions in the next few minutes. You're in the White House briefing room. What do you ask Trump?
What I would ask Trump is, once he has overthrown the Islamic regime, what plan is in place to set Iran on the right track as per the will of the people, as per the will of the Iranians?
Good question. Lee, what about you?
I would ask with certainty how we will know that Iran will never be capable of seeing through its most dangerous plans, which is to nuclearize and threaten its neighbors and threaten the world. That's what concerns me most.
Based, what about you?
I would ask him, once he's done with the Islamic regime in Iran, can he get rid of the Islamic regime in Parliament in the United Kingdom? Because I'm sick and tired of the Islamification of the UK. That's my main concern, this country and the betterment of this country.
Well, yeah, and he's so concerned about it too. By the way, just to let you know, as soon as Donald Trump is asked these questions and goes back to the podium, we will, of course, go back to the White House. Currently, Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, is speaking. But for me, do you know what? I want Trump to go into more detail about how seriously he now views the potential of the US withdrawing from NATO in light of NATO's lack of support over this Iranian mission. Like, is this just an empty threat, or is he seriously saying that there is a potential end to that union, which obviously has really held together some degree of peace for decades? And I'd also want to ask him, Lee, about how the special relationship can possibly recover from this. Like, is it literally a case now of it's all over before we get a new prime minister? Because, Lee, you are also a royal commentator, and we have the spectre of this state visit by King Charles to Washington, D.C. at a time when Donald Trump is utterly furious with the United Kingdom, furious with the Prime Minister.
Well, Dan, very good questions. What I'd like to say by way of answering is that Donald Trump is not furious with the UK. He is furious with the bad leadership that the UK has in place. He's furious with Keir Starmer. He is furious with the Labour-managed decline of the country that he loves, that I love, that really is the birth of everything that's good about the United States at its greatest point. The gift of our inheritance of freedom and our legal system, etc. And Keir Starmer has so polluted that. It's disgusting. But I'd like to say for the record that how glorious it is, Dan, to have in Donald Trump. If the UK can't get rid of Labour before 2029, and I pray that something will happen because that's a long ways to wait with the kind of destruction that we're seeing unfolding, at least we have the voice of Donald Trump making sure that the world knows how incompetent and how Britain last and how the prioritizing the West last Starmer is performing.
Okay, yeah, I think that is a very, very good point. A very, very good point. I mean, definitely we would like a general election, but at this point, I don't think that is going to happen. And it is interesting, isn't it, Steph, because you're a Restore Britain supporter, and Rupert Lowe has, I think, quite smartly leaned away from Donald Trump over this conflict, but not in the same way that, for example, the Greens necessarily attack Trump, but by saying, well, of course, we're not in a position to get involved in the war.
Well, no, militarily, we're not. I remember, I think it was like a couple of years ago, the UK did a little bit of a war game, a test. If, let's say, the Chinese wanted to invade our country using cyber tech, what would happen? And if I remember rightly, it was reported that the UK would fall in a matter of hours. And in all honesty, when we had like a couple of weeks ago, one of our military boats not actually setting sail because those at the docks, they only worked 9 till 5. Like, seriously, we're also giving away or trying to give away, which is ridiculous, the Chagos Islands. Yeah, militarily, we are not the superpower that we once were. And that's not only because of Starmer, but you can go all the way back to Blair with the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War that completely decimated us militarily. And then in terms of, you know, the Tories, they really gutted it out because of all of the cutbacks, because of, you know, austerity measures, this, that, and the other, to where we are now, where we're giving billions away to, Ukraine, when really we need those billions to rebuild our own military and get back to the strength where we were before. We're not investing in our own military, we're investing in other countries' military. I mean, it's absolutely backwards.
Indeed, just to let everyone know, we are awaiting Donald Trump taking questions during this bombshell White House press conference. Before we get there, though, I am going to reveal today's greatest Britain and Union jackass, because myself and Steph and Based and Bougie have been battling it out to be named the worst Britain in the world today. A reminder of the nominations: Steph went for King Charles for not providing an Easter message on camera. Based went for Keir Starmer because he's been shaking hands with a serial killer while being silent on the grooming gangs. And I went for Meghan Markle for creepy Instagram posts of her kids over Easter. Do you know what? Only 4% of you went for my choice today, Ms. Markle. The runner-up with 43%, and this has to be a record, the first time that he has been nominated but not won, is Sir Keir Starmer, nominated by Based and Bougie, which means you're very angry, and I do understand it, about King Charles's failure to release an Easter message. He is today's Union jackass with 53% of the vote. Wow, that is a surprise. And Based and Bougie, you have nominated our greatest Britain today, and it is someone who we spoke about earlier in the show. Do you want to reveal who and why?
Yes, his name is, forgive me for
Walker Smith. Walker Smith, there he is.
Yeah, that is the greatest Britain of the UK for 2026, because he had the audacity to actually impose law and order in lawless Sadiq Khan's London. I just cannot believe that someone actually got arrested for trying to stop a theft. Like, it blows my mind. And you know what? The reason why I awarded him the Greatest Briton is because I actually worked in the industry. I've been very transparent about this, where we used to help, a lot of migrants get back into work. And a lot of them was not serious. We saw a lot of them taking the absolute mick out of the system, and we couldn't do anything about it. If we did anything about it, we could potentially lose our job, because everything's about multiculturalism and diversity is our strength. So I applaud him for actually having the strength to impose law and order. I can't believe I'm even saying this.
Yeah.
But
I know,
he deserves.
sacked. I don't think he was arrested, but he was sacked, and it was utterly insane and absolutely infuriating. Lots of comments coming in, and again, I do remind you, as soon as Trump is up taking questions at the White House, we will bring you that entire stream. But lots of comments coming in from you today as well. Helen O.D. says, Dan, you are too polite. Carol Vorderman isn't nutty, a bit eccentric but sweet. She's a nasty, full-blown narcissist. And do you know what, Helen? I love you, because people are usually telling me I'm too mean to Vorderman, but you are totally right. I couldn't agree more. Joyce Martin 649 says, I believe everyone is getting very ahead of themselves. There is another 3 years to go. A week in politics is a long time. That's in terms of the fact that the Greens are leading in the polls and Reform UK have slumped. Roxana 88 says, Reform will merge with Tories. That's not uniting the right. That's the same centre-left we've always had. Barbara Cleverly says, yes, Dan, bots don't cough up cash. Okay, we're going to go back to the White House. Thank you, Basin Bougie. Thank you, Steph the Alter Nerd. Thank you, Lee Cohen. We're going to go back to the White House for Donald Trump taking questions.
And most importantly, to Dude 44, welcome home. Job well done. Thank you.
Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. And these two gentlemen have been, from day one, they've been perfecto. I got to know General Kane in my first term because he was able to take out ISIS in 4 weeks instead of the 4-year projection that was given to me by other much lesser generals. And I said, if I ever do this again, that's going to be the head of my Joint Chiefs of Staff. And we worked it that way, didn't we? It's amazing. He took out ISIS. We defeated ISIS in 4 weeks. I was told it would take 4 years. I flew to Iraq to find out, with the greatest equipment in the world, why would it take 4 years? And he told me, sir, it won't. It'll take 4 weeks and you'll have time left over. And that's exactly what happened. So he's great. And Pete, all I can say is that he was treated very unfairly. And now those same people that treated him unfairly, that fought against him, they called me up saying, what a great choice he was. They said, well, what happened during his nomination? What happened to you? I'm telling you, people that were not for him, senators, friends of mine, sir, I don't think you're doing the right thing. Now they're calling me up. What a choice. These two guys are fantastic. And John Ratcliffe was incredible. It was actually their genius that called us from, he was 40 miles away. And he said, we're seeing something moving up in the mountain. This is at night. And they kept the camera on him for 45 minutes. He wasn't moving. And they said, probably wrong, but we're seeing something moving. This is a vast mountain. Vast, thick, with bushes, trees. He said, we see something moving 40 miles away. It was the head of a human being, I'm telling you, it's moving. And then all of a sudden, 45 minutes later, he moved a lot. Stood up, and they said, we have him. And that was really the beginning of something incredible. We had an idea where he was, but not specifically. That's a big mountain. So I want to thank the CIA, too. I don't think they get enough credit for the great job they've done. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for this great opportunity. Country, it has super army. You make a difference, Mr. President. Thank you for your greatest leadership.
Thank you.
I have 2 quick questions, Mr. President. What was your reaction when you learned that Kurdistan region had resumed exporting oil to the international market with your support as United States of America?
Well, I expected that. We've gotten along with the Kurds for a long time, so I expected that.
Another question, what would be your reaction if the Iranian people rise up against their regime during a ceasefire, Mr. President?
Well, they should do it, but again, the consequences are great. I mean, they were told if you protest, you will be shot immediately. You saw what happened to the young wrestler. He was a great champion, by the way. He was a great wrestler, one of the top in the world. And he and his two friends were hung. And all they did was say a little bit about liberty. They wanted liberty, and they were violently executed. But the number is up to probably 45,000 people were killed. So, you know, when somebody stays in a house, when they know if they walk out of the house to protest, they'll be immediately shot and killed. And they issued that, you know, that was publicly issued. It's not a secret. That's why so many people say, oh, well, why are you doing this way? We can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. You know, we got regime change. We do. We're dealing with a much different regime than before. We're dealing with different people. They're smarter. I think they're sharper and far less radical. We have regime change, but we didn't do this for regime change. We did it for the fact, and my view was very simple. I saw somebody said, oh, he doesn't have a plan. I have the best plan of all, but I'm not going to tell you what my plan is. You know, they want me to say, here's my plan. We're going to attack at 9:47 in the morning, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to, and if you don't do that, they say, I have a plan. These people know what the plan is. Everybody here knows what the plan is, but it's very unfair to say, you know, because I don't mind being insulted. I've been insulted for many years by the fake news, but you can't. It's so bad for the people that are so pro. You just saw two great, and John Ratcliffe, three unbelievable people. They have a plan. Every single thing has been thought out by all of us. But I can't reveal the plan to the media. So, you know, but we're just thrilled by the success of this operation. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. You've said Iranians would be mad if you stopped these attacks, but why would they want you to blow up their infrastructure, to cut off their power? Wouldn't that be punishing Iranians for the actions of the regime?
They would be willing to, and it's suffering, they would be willing to suffer that in order to have freedom. The Iranians have, and we've had numerous intercepts. Please keep bombing. Bombs that are dropping near their homes. Please keep bombing. Do it. And these are people that are living where the bombs are exploding. And when we leave and we're not hitting those areas, they're saying, please come back, come back, come back. These are the people. I don't know what they do. All I can tell you is they want freedom. They have lived in a world that you know nothing about. It's a violent, horrible world where if you protest, you are shot. Remember the great woman protests where they had 400,000, 500,000 women, and they were all enthused and they were going to protest, and everybody said, oh, the regime's going to come to an end. And then all of a sudden, boom, boom, 5, 6 different areas. A woman would go down right between the eyes. They had snipers. They had 5 snipers. That's all it took. And those 400,000 or 500,000 women said, oh my God, what's that? Oh, look over there, what's that? A woman shot right between the eyes. And after 5 or 6 of them go down, then you start hearing the purr through the vast number of people. And then they said, oh my God, who would do that? And they're incredible people, but they've lived so horribly. They've lived so horribly. You know, Iran was a great country if you go back 25 years ago or so. The Persian people, they're incredible, smart, brilliant, actually. And I know so many. I know coming from New York, originally, I know so many people from Iran. They're incredible people, incredible energy, and very, very brilliant people. But when you're standing in a group and protesting and you have a woman, in the case of a woman, remember the Great Woman March, everybody was saying, oh, this is the end of the country. And then snipers selectively picked. Every single one was shot right between the eyes from a long distance. They were on top of buildings. Nobody even knew where they were, where they're coming from. This wasn't like a machine gun, which is also very bad. They've done that too. They did that recently. This was snipers sitting on the top of buildings, aiming and hitting women. And when they see people go down and all of a sudden there's a riot in the reverse direction, and they never came out again. And a lot of the news doesn't talk about that. They talk about, oh, women's rights. You want to see women's rights? You're not going to see it there. It's amazing when I see some of the stupid people like, you know, AOC +3, all that group. They talk about, oh, freedom for Iran. They don't tell you the real facts. Women, men, gays. How about gays for Iran? They kill the gays. They throw them off buildings. So I wonder what's going on. I can only say this. They want us to keep bombing, even if it jeopardizes, because their life is in much greater danger. They want freedom for Iran, but it's very hard for them to protest. I actually tell them, I said, don't go out. I fully understand. Nobody in this room would go out. I don't think there's any, because frankly, it's not a question of bravery. We're all brave, right? You're brave, I'm brave, we're all brave. But we're also intelligent. If you have people shooting at you, expert shots with the best rifles you can get, and hitting you right between the eyes every single time, and you're looking here and you're seeing and you're looking here, you're out of there. I don't care who it is. Please.
Mark Meredith, Fox News.
I know that.
Oh, thank you.
How would I know that? Go ahead.
America's watching. No.
Good job.
Can we go back to the weekend? First off, was everyone on board with the operation, or were there people that were trying to talk you out of going through with the operation this weekend?
Not everybody was on board.
Somebody else within
No,
you?
there was military people, very professional, that preferred not doing it. These two were totally on board, which was very important. They weren't, it would have had a little difficulty. But no, there were military people that said, you just don't do this. You don't go into the heart of a very powerful military. You know, this is, hey, you have countries and countries. You have some countries where military is not their strong suit. This whole thing is militarized like nobody's ever seen before. Half the people are wearing uniforms. And we had people within the military. Usually it's not done. That's one of the reasons. You know, I was surprised. Somebody said it's the only time it's ever been done. I said, that's not possible. But it is possible, because you're going into hundreds of thousands of soldiers along the path. I mean, look at some of the helicopters, how they got hit. So, yeah, there were people within the military that said it's a wise. And don't forget, how many men did you send altogether, approximately, for the operation?
I'd love to keep that a secret.
Okay, well, but I will tell you, the number, I'll keep it a secret, but it was hundreds. And hundreds of these people, that's pretty good. Is he central casting? But hundreds of people went into this journey. Hundreds of people could have been killed. Forget about the equipment, a lot of equipment, nobody cares. Hundreds of people could have been killed. So we had people that were within the military that said this is not a wise, and I understood that, but I decided to do it.
Was there a point that that you were thinking there's too much on the line, and somebody was saying maybe we abort this now and wait? I mean, given the resource, like the general said, it seemed like there was so much on the line here. You must have been thinking, well, this could have completely changed.
So the first one, which was in many ways as dangerous as the second, I guess it gets, because we're flying over daylight. You know, we're the best at the world at night. We have goggles that nobody. We have goggles. I've tried them. They're unbelievable. I see better with the goggles at night than I see without them during daylight. I mean, daylight today, we have a beautiful day. You see just as well with goggles. In many ways, it's enhanced. So we have the best in the world. So it's much safer for us to do it at night, whereas other people, no other country has that capability. They don't have that particular piece of equipment like we do. But when I was told flying and in daylight, I think we flew 7 hours over Iran, and that's a long time, over unbelievably hostile territory, where they have nothing but weapons. We took out their anti-aircraft, which is great. We took out their radar, which is great. We took out a lot, but they still have, you know, what hit this one was a handheld shoulder missile, heat-seeking missile. So it's not like, you know, they're totally whatever. And they had probably a little luck, because you got to get lucky. But they shot it, and it got sucked in right by the engine. But these guys were out of there. They were great. Their timing was great. But no, I was told that this is a very dangerous mission. I understand. They didn't say it's a foolish mission. They said, you know, we're going to be sacrificing hundreds of people do this. This is I mean, you have tankers that are flying over this area so that because the flight was so long, they had to refuel. It's a very dangerous mission. I just felt it was worth it. If you would have told me that we would have been successful, gotten both, and nobody was even essentially injured, I would have said that would be impossible. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I'll come back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Given that you are now dealing, you say, with a more reasonable, less extreme leadership in Iran, what does that mean for the protesters, for the human rights movement in that country after this conflict?
Well,
What's your expectation?
Yeah, if they assume control, if we do something and they assume control, I think it's very positive, a big step. I don't think you'd see the radicalization that you have seen in the last. Look what happened. I mean, women are being executed because they're not properly clothed, they say. They're not properly clothed, and they execute the women. They shoot them right on the street. No, you have a much different group of people. Now, I'm not saying we are dealing with them. Essentially, they have till 8 o'clock tomorrow night, Eastern time. But we are dealing with them. I think it's going well. Mr. Witkoff is here, and JD's involved in the dealing. Mr. Witkoff is sitting right here, and I think it's going fine, but we'll have to see. You have to understand, we've been dealing with these people for 47 years. I'm standing here with a much more powerful Iran as of a month ago, not anymore. Right now, they are decapitated. But I'm standing here a month ago with a much more powerful Iran than it was at any point during 47 years. This should have been handled by 7 presidents, a lot of presidents. And those presidents are saying now, every one of them to their friends, we should have done this a long time ago. So it's not something I like doing. It's very dangerous, and we're getting them at the height of their strength. If I didn't terminate the Barack Hussein Obama Iran nuclear deal, they would have had don't forget, that was a path to a nuclear weapon. Remember this. He chose Iran over Israel, pure and simple. How Israel can vote for a Democrat is if you're Jewish in New York City or any place else in this country, and how you can vote for a Democrat is unbelievable, because he chose Iran, a very hostile Iran. Remember when he filled up a 757 with cash, billions of dollars of cash, and he sent it over to them. Then they gave them tens of billions of dollars. He chose Iran over Israel and really the Arab world, if you look, because, you know, the other, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, I mean, you take a look. I mean, I can add Kuwait and I can add Bahrain, and you can add others. He chose such an unlikely candidate. Nobody could believe it. Frankly, if you're going to choose between Iraq and Iran, he should have befriended Iraq. He went in the exact opposite direction of all thinking, and he made a terrible mistake. But that was a road to a nuclear weapon. And when I terminated that, everyone said, oh, he terminated it. It was one of the best things we ever did because he had a road to a nuclear weapon. And it was a very short-term deal. You know, countries don't do 10-year deals. Countries do hundreds of years. You don't do a 10-year deal. For a country, this isn't, you're a landlord and you're renting a store on a certain street and you give somebody a 5-year or a 10-year lease. This is a country. It was a short-term deal. It was ready to expire. I terminated it before it expired. Took a lot of heat, and it was one of the best things I ever did because he would have had a nuclear weapon. Then he would have had another nuclear weapon, had those beautiful B-2 bombers not gone in 8 months ago and obliterated that site. And by the way, the word is obliteration. CNN said, well, maybe it wasn't complete. It was so complete that they still haven't been able to get it. It was obliteration. But if we didn't hit them, that was a courageous decision, too, because we had all those planes flying in at night with very little cover, unbelievable stealth planes, and they were able to do their job. If we didn't do that, Iran would have had a nuclear weapon at a high level, either one of those two instances. And if they did, in my opinion, I told this to Bibi Netanyahu yesterday, Israel would have been extinguished. Large portions of the Middle East would have been extinguished, whether it's Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, or others. And you saw that with thousands of missiles raining down upon them. They didn't think they were going to be hit. They thought they'd be watching us fight. And all of a sudden, UAE got hit by 1,500 missiles. He would have taken them out also. And they were powerful. If I didn't come along and terminate the Obama deal, which was terrible, the Iran nuclear deal was a road to a nuclear weapon, a big one, unlimited, legally. I terminated it without even much thought. It was so easy. I terminated that, and then the B-2 bombers. And I did one other thing. I had killed Qasem Soleimani, who was an evil genius. And the reason I did it, I heard he was going to knock out 5 of our military bases. And had he lived, I believe we would be fighting perhaps a different Iran right now, because he's never been replaced, you know. And I did one other, but this one was not picked up. Osama bin Laden. If you read my book, I said you got to take him out 1 year before the World Trade Center came down. So I wish you'd read the book. But you, as a president, to be a good president, I believe you have to have good instincts. And a lot of this is instinct. Yeah, please.
Thank you so much for taking my question, Mr. President. Mr. President, last week you suggested that Europe should take the lead on reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Has circumstances changed now that you're issuing a direct 48-hour ultimatum? And secondly, would a new ceasefire include Israel, or would it just be between Iran and the US?
I can't talk about ceasefire, but I can tell you that we have a active, willing participant on the other side. They would like to be able to make a deal. I can't say any more than that. But
You've listed the goals. Excuse me.
Please, go ahead.
You've listed the goals.
Who you with? Who you with?
My name is Diyar Kurd. I'm with the largest Kurdish media outlet, Ruda Media Network. It's based in Iran.
Go ahead.
Mr. President, you said before that you don't want the Kurdish forces to enter Iran and be harmed. Do you still want them to stay away? Or what role do you expect them to play now?
I'd rather have them stay away. I'd rather have them stay away because I think they bring with them some problems and some difficulties. And I don't think they bring death, I mean, you know, to themselves. But I'd rather have them stay away. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the question. Deliberate attacks on civilian infrastructure violate the Geneva Conventions and international law.
Who are you with?
I'm with the New York Times. Zolan from the New York Times. Are you
failing?
Are you concerned?
Circulation way down at the New York Times.
Are
What's
you
going
concerned
on
that your threat to bomb power plants and bridges amount to
No,
war
not
crimes?
at all. No, I'm not. I hope I don't have to do it. But again, I just said 47 years they've been negotiating with these people. They're great negotiators. And because they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. And if somebody that takes my place someday is weak and ineffective, which possibly that will happen because we had numerous presidents that were weak, ineffective, and afraid of Iran, we're never going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And if you think it's okay for people that are sick of mind, that are tough, smart, and sick, really sick, you know, from a policy standpoint, from a any which way you want to say, mentally, these are disturbed people. If you think I'm going to allow them, and powerful and rich, to have a nuclear weapon, you can tell your friends at the New York Times, not going to happen.
It means violating international law.
Quiet. You no longer have credibility at the New York Times. Because the New York Times said, oh, Trump won't win the election, and I won in a landslide. I won every swing state. New York Times said, oh, Trump won't win the election. New York Times has no credibility. The credibility they have is it used to be all the news that's fit to print. The old gray lady, it was great, but they're running on past fumes, and you can't keep doing that. You have to be able to give the correct news. And people like you, who I know, are fake. You're fake. Go ahead, please.
Your messaging on the war has moved from the war is coming to an end to war going to be bombing Iran to the Stone Ages. Right. And we've heard a range of those kind of messages. So which is it? Are you winding this down or are you escalating it?
I can't tell you. I don't know. I can't tell you. Depends what they do. This is a critical period. They have a period of, well, till tomorrow at 8 o'clock. I gave them an extension. They asked for an extension of 7 days, right? I said, Steve, give them 10 days. 10 days is up actually today, so I gave them 11, I guess, indirectly. I thought it was inappropriate the day after Easter. I want to be a nice person. They have till tomorrow. Now, we'll see what happens. I can tell you they're negotiating, we think, in good faith. We're going to find out. We're getting the help of some incredible countries that want this to be ended because it affects them also. A lot of people are affected by this. But we're giving them till tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern time. And after that, they're going to have no bridges. They're going to have no power plants. Stone Ages, yeah. Stone Ages. CNN fake news.
Are you willing to make a deal that does not include reopening the Strait of Hormuz, or is that now a top priority?
I would say it's a very big priority because, see, that's one thing that's a little different than other things. We can bomb the hell out of them. We can knock them out for a loop. But to close the strait, all you need is one terrorist that somehow has a truck loaded with, because you can carry them in trucks, large trucks, a water mine, drop them in the water, and now you tell people that own ships that cost $1 billion to don't worry about the mine. You can do that even just by saying we put mines in the water. So it's not like the rest. We can knock out their military. We already have. We've knocked out their Navy. We've knocked out their Air Force completely. We've knocked out 158 ships in 3 days. We've knocked out even their mine droppers. They don't have any mine droppers anymore, but they put them on other boats, and they could drop them. I'm not even sure they have any mines there, by the way. I'm not sure. I'm personally, they say there might be 8. I don't know. I think there might be none because they're very good bullshit artists. That's why for 47 years they've been bullshitting other presidents, and they haven't done the job. And people are living in hell. You live in that country, they're living in hell. No, I think that 47 years of this stuff is long enough. They're at the weakest point they've ever been. They have no Navy, they have no Air Force, they have no anti-aircraft weaponry, they have no radar, they have no communication. In fact, the biggest problem we have in our negotiation is that they can't communicate. I said to Steve, what are they saying? Sir, they can't communicate. They have no method of communication. So we're communicating like they used to communicate 2,000 years ago with children, bringing a note back and forth. They have no communication. But all I want to see is I want to have a safe world, and you're not going to have a safe world. Israel will be gone. The Middle East will be gone. And then they're coming for Europe. And I have to tell you, I'm very disappointed in NATO, very. I think that NATO... I think it's a mark on NATO that will never disappear in my mind. You know, they're coming to see me on Wednesday. They're going to say, oh, we'll do this, we'll do that. Now they all of a sudden want to send things, you know. But they said it loud and clear at the beginning when I spoke to UK of all. I would have said they would have been the first because they're the oldest. And I say, yeah, I'd love to have a little help. He said, no, sir, we'd rather wait till you win. I said, I don't need help after we win. They have 2 old, broken aircraft carriers, barely work. I said, I guess we can use them. Who the hell knows? I called the general. He didn't even want them. He said, we don't really need them. We got the SS Abraham Lincoln, sir. We don't need them. Do you know, we have, in terms of technology, we had one day 101 missiles going at 2,700 miles an hour, aimed at the Abraham Lincoln. 101 missiles. Out of 101 missiles, 101 missiles were shot down. Unbelievable technology. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't know if that would have been possible. But 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been possible. 101 missiles heading to a ship that's not that far off the coast. And out of the 101 missiles, we shot down all 101. We have weaponry. The Patriots are unbelievable. We have weaponry that's unbelievable, yeah. Go ahead, please. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. You said earlier today during the egg roll that you would like to take Iran's oil, but Americans want U.S. forces home.
Correct.
What's that trade-off?
If I had my
Does it
choice,
take too
if I had my
much time?
choice, yeah, because I'm a businessman first. With Venezuela, as you know, the war was over in about 45 minutes. And we have great people running Venezuela, very good people. I mean, the relationship is good. And we are a partner with Venezuela. And we've taken hundreds of millions of barrels, hundreds of millions. Over 100 million barrels already is in Houston, refined and out. And paid for that war many, many times over, many times. You know, the old days, to the victim. Okay, you know that. To the winner belong the spoils, go the spoils. And I've said, why don't we use it? To the victor, go the spoils. And we don't have that. We haven't had that in this country probably in 100 years, because even the Second World War, you look at the Second World War, we didn't have it with the Second World War. We helped rebuild all those countries. We rebuilt Germany. How about Germany telling us that, well, it's not their war. We had nothing to do with it. They wanted me to go and tell them everything I was doing. We didn't know anything about it. Well, if I would have told them, they would have leaked it, and we wouldn't have been nearly as successful, possibly, right? But to the victor belong the spoils. So we haven't heard that in, I think, maybe hundreds of years. Now with Venezuela, and we, just so you understand, the people of Venezuela, they say if I ran for president of Venezuela, I'm polling higher than anybody has ever polled in Venezuela. So after I'm finished with this, I can go to Venezuela. I will quickly learn Spanish. It won't take too long. I'm good at language. And I will go to Venezuela. I'm going to run for president. But we're very happy with the president-elect that we have right now, the people that are running it. If you remember Bush with Iraq, they fired the generals, they fired the police, they fired the people that worked in their equivalent of the White House. They fired everybody. And you know what they had? They had a mess. And you know what happened? ISIS formed. Those generals and those soldiers got together. The police got together. They all got together. They formed ISIS. Not going to happen with us. So Venezuela has been an incredible situation. We went in. We were very successful. Military power like nobody's ever seen. The general, Venezuelan general, said, I was on that site. I said, I've never seen ferocity like that. I've been doing this for 40 years. He said, I've never seen it. They hit us from 17 different, they were all set. They saw that big, beautiful aircraft carrier, the Ford in that case, and planes were pouring off it at 1 o'clock in the morning. So typically when you see that late at night, you know, you could be in trouble, right? And we were all ready. They had their equipment. It was Russian. And they had Chinese equipment. It was all set. They were going to give us a fight. He said, and then they came, and they came at speeds like we've never seen. And they came at 17 different angles. The general and his people, that was a lot of angles. They hit him from every angle. He said, we knew it was over in 3 minutes. We were waiting for them. Their equipment didn't work. And there's a reason it didn't work. Someday we'll explain that to people. They pressed the button, nothing happened. They pressed it again and again, nothing happened. And he said, we knew this whole thing was over in 3 minutes. We've never seen any, he used the word ferocity. The ferocity of these planes from 17 different angles, and it was over. They went inside. And remember, that was on a military base with thousands of soldiers. And those soldiers looked and they said, get the hell out of here. Thousands. We didn't have thousands. We had like 200 people. So we have a great military. And I'll tell you what, somehow this rescue captured the world's attention, more so than normally. You're talking about two people. But this rescue captured the world's attention. But we did it in Venezuela. That was amazing. And now we have a very bad man in prison and going to trial. I mean, he released, aside from the drugs, which he was terrible, Maduro released hundreds of thousands of people from jails into our country. Drug dealers, murderers, the worst people in the world were released into our country because we had a stupid president who probably didn't know. And we had a border czar who never went to the border and never once called our great Border Patrol agents, right? Not once, Kamala. She never called the Border Patrol. She never said, how are we doing? I used to call the Border Patrol guys every day. You can ask them, Paul, ask any one of them. Brandon, ask him all the time, how are we doing? How are we doing? And we now, I'm proud to say, have a totally sealed border. 9 months, nobody is coming through our border. And nobody even tries because they know they're not going to get through. So we don't have caravans anymore. So maybe 1 or 2 more and we'll be done.
Mr. President, are you allowed to, or are you willing to end this conflict with Iran charging tolls for passage through the strait?
Us charging tolls?
Iran.
What about us charging tolls?
Is that something you're considering?
I'd rather do that than let them have them, right? Why shouldn't we? We're the winner. We won, okay? They are militarily defeated. The only thing they have is the psychology of, oh, we're going to drop a couple of mines in the water, all right? No, we have a concept where we'll charge tolls, okay? I thought you meant us. Your question would have been more accurate if you said us. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. So just to clarify, in order for Iran to successfully meet your deadline tomorrow, do they have to make a deal, open the strait, or both?
We have to have a deal that's acceptable to me. And part of that deal is going to be, we want free traffic of oil and everything else.
Mr. President, thank you very much. You've said glory be to God in this conflict. Do you believe that God supports the United States' actions in this
I do,
war?
because
And
God is good. Because God is good, and God wants to see people taken care of. God doesn't like what's happening. I don't like what's happening. Everyone says, I enjoy it. I don't enjoy this. I don't enjoy it. These two guys don't enjoy it. You know, people say, oh boy, they're so tough. I don't like seeing people killed. I've ended 8 wars. Nobody's ever done it. The person who won the Nobel Prize came to me and said, you deserve the Nobel Prize. She announced that. When they announced, they said, goes to Maria. She's a great person, really a good person. She said, no, no, no. This is ridiculous. They gave me the Nobel Prize. President Trump ended 8 wars. I could go over every one of them, including India and Pakistan, where the Prime Minister of Pakistan said, President Trump saved from 30 to 50 million lives. That makes me much happier than what we're doing right now. That makes me much happier. We have 1 more to end, by the way. Okay.
President, you called yesterday in your Truth Social, you called the Iranians crazy bastards.
True.
What is your response to critics who say that
I don't care about critics.
What is your response to critics who say that it is your mental health that should perhaps be examined as this war continues?
I haven't heard that. But if that's the case, you're going to have more people like me, because our country was being ripped off on trade, on everything for many years until I came along. So if that's the case, you're going to have more people. Dasha, go ahead. Dasha, go.
You said that very little is off limits in Iran as far as targeting,
Yeah.
including power plants, bridges, you've mentioned those.
Very little is off limits.
Are there certain kinds of civilian targets, though? I'm thinking schools
I don't want to
or
tell you
hospitals
that.
you
I don't want
would
to
say
tell you
is
that.
off-
We have a plan, because of the power of our military, where every bridge in Iran will be decimated by 12 o'clock tomorrow night, where every power plant in Iran will be out of business, burning, exploding, and never to be used again. I mean, complete demolition by 12 o'clock. And it'll happen over a period of 4 hours if we wanted to. We don't want that to happen. We may even get involved with helping them rebuild their nation. And you know what? If that's the case, the last thing we want to do is start with power plants, which are among the most expensive thing, and bridges. You saw the bridge. The bridge went. We were very close to a deal. And then I got a call from Mr. Witkoff, Mr. Kushner, and JD saying, I think they're breaking the deal. I said, tell them that's okay. Don't worry about it. But tell them to look out their window and watch. And within 45 minutes, I gave the order to knock out the biggest bridge. I gave the order, knock out the biggest bridge in, I believe, the Middle East, but the biggest bridge in Iran. And within 10 minutes after I gave that order, that bridge was over. So do I want to do that? No. Do I want to destroy their infrastructure? No. It will take them 100 years to rebuild. Right now, if we left today, it would take them 20 years to rebuild their country, and it would never be as good as it was. And the only way they're going to be able to rebuild their country is to utilize the genius of the United States of America.
Mr. President, on NATO, you voiced your displeasure with NATO in the past. Is there a danger to the U.S. not being the de facto of the leader of the alliance, and then other powers within the alliance then getting the decision making when it comes to wars and nuclear weapons?
No, it's not a danger. Look, we went to NATO. I didn't ask very strongly. I just said, hey, if you want to help, great. No, we will not help. I said, that's all right. You don't want to help? Because I've always said NATO's a paper tiger. See, NATO's a paper tiger. Putin's not afraid of NATO. Putin's afraid of us, very afraid of us. And he's explained it to me a lot of times. I got to know him very well. I know him very well. NATO's a paper tiger. NATO is us. And when we needed them, we didn't need them, by the way. We didn't need them, obviously, because they haven't helped at all. Just the opposite. They've actually gone out of their way not to help. They didn't even want to give us landing strips. Think of it. And it's not just NATO. You know who else didn't help us? South Korea didn't help us. You know who else didn't help us? Australia didn't help us. You know who else didn't help us? Japan. We've got 50,000 soldiers in Japan to protect them from North Korea. We have 45,000 soldiers in South Korea to protect us from Kim Jong-un, who I get along with very well, as you know. Do you notice he said very nice things about me? He used to call Joe Biden a mentally retarded person, okay? So don't tell me about your stuff. Joe Biden, he said he's a mentally retarded person. He was so nasty to Joe Biden. It was terrible. But to me, he likes Trump. And do you notice how nice things are with North Korea? It's very nice. But we have 45,000 people, soldiers, in harm's way, right next to Kim Jong-un with a lot of nuclear weapons. 45, which should have never happened if a certain president, I'm not going to mention this president because I happen to like him, believe it or not, but if a certain president did his job, Kim Jong-un would not have nuclear weapons right now. But they were all afraid to do their job properly. But just to conclude and just to finish, Japan didn't help us, Australia didn't help us, South Korea didn't help us, and then you get to NATO, NATO didn't help us. There were some countries that did. Now, countries that have been good, now you could also say they're got to be a little bit more involved because they're in the territory, but Saudi Arabia has been excellent, Qatar has been excellent, UAE has been excellent, Bahrain, Kuwait. I mean, Kuwait did shoot down 3 of our planes. The only planes, really, that we lost with friendly fire, they call it. I call it unfriendly fire. They unfortunately didn't know how to use our great Patriots. The pilot said, what kind of a missile's coming at us? Patriot. Boom, they got out because they know a Patriot never misses. So they had beautiful Patriots. There were planes heading in their direction. Unfortunately, they decided to shoot those planes. They were our planes. So, NATO is a paper tiger. Now, he's coming to see me on Wednesday, as you know. He's a wonderful guy. Secretary General is great. And Mark Rutte, he's a great person, but he's got... And it all began with, if you want to know the truth, Greenland. We want Greenland. They don't want to give it to us. And I said, bye-bye. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.